Chapter 181, By an Odd Twist. Lady Tai, what do you mean? Fong Zheng did not understand. Tai Ruanan stretched out her finger, pointing at the wall. Look at him, Gu Fong Yuan. Don't you think he looks way too calm? When finding out that he has C-grade talent, while his blood-related brother has a grade talent, normal people would definitely have some reaction to it. But him? Not a trace of emotion. The surrounding praises and mockery cannot move his heart. Don't you find this strange? Throughout the process, he is too calm. Tai Ruanan's words attracted everyone's gaze. As this scene replayed, all the gazes on the wall landed on Fong Yuan's silhouette. Fong Yuan stood among the crowd, standing alone, upright. A dark shadow engulfed half his body. And this scenario was a huge contrast to the other side. His own brother, Gu Fongzheng, was moving step by step, his body bathed in the Hope Gu's pure white light. At this moment, the elder and younger brother had a swap of identities. The former fell from grace, falling to the lowest point in his life, engulfed by shadows. The latter being blessed by fate, shining in brilliance, climbing his way to the top. A 15-year-old youngster, going through such a catastrophic change in his life. But yet, on his body there is no trace of disappointment, perplexity, or jealousy. Only calmness. He stood among the crowd, silently watching like he was an outsider, like he was watching a show. Tai Ruanan's voice came appropriately. Yes. Fong Yuan watched silently. As the shadows engulfed half his body, his face was expressionless, except the pale color of a youngster's skin. Gu Bo stared at the wall, solemn. Fong Zheng felt a strong chill emerging from deep within his body. Brother, what in the world are you? Even if he had a prediction towards the awakening ceremony's results, his heart would definitely feel a change in emotions, and he definitely won't be as calm as this. I used the cactus pointer earlier, and always thought that the word aptitude was referring to Gu Chi Cheng. But now that I think about it, it might not refer to Chi Cheng, but most likely Fong Yuan. Tai Ruanan said. Lady Tai, what do you mean? I don't understand it at all. Fong Zheng was more confused. Tai Ruanan raised a finger. Only one type of situation would cause Fong Yuan to be so calm. That is, he has a trump card that no one knows. Only one situation would cause him to not be jealous, and that is because he has something greater. If two people walk together and one person finds a primeval stone, only if the other finds 10 or 100 would they not be jealous, and have a calm emotion. Fong Yuan is like that. You are saying, Fong Yuan cheated and concealed his true aptitude? He is not a C-grade talent. Gu Bo understood Tai Ruanan's words, but if he is A or B grade, why would he not display it outright? Fong Yuan had great wisdom since young. Tai Ruanan's lips curled, her expression confident as she radiated utter confidence. These few days, I've read some of his poems. With such visions and aspirations, even father was full of praise for him. Such a genius, he naturally has his own schemes. Gu Bo shook his head. Just with this alone, it still doesn't confirm anything. Concealing aptitude and revealing his aptitude gives two completely different treatment. Even if Fong Yuan didn't know this, after a year in the academy, he should be clear of it. Of course he knew, that's why he did not dare to reveal it. Tai Ruanan did not beat about the bush, saying confidently. What do you mean? Gu Bo was also lost now. Gu clan leader. Tai Ruanan turned around, looking at Gu Bo solemnly. Do you know about Renzu's 10 children? Gu Bo was first stunned, before he immediately reacted, understanding Tai Ruanan's true meaning. He was shocked. His iris expanded, his mouth agape, not having any of his clan leader disposition. This was the first time Fang Zheng saw Gu Yubo in such a state. Ren Zhu's 10 children, eldest son verdant great son, second daughter desolate ancient moon, the 10 children's aptitude defied heaven, thus heaven was wary and did not give them a long lifespan. In the Gu world, the 10 children also represented the top 10 most extreme aptitudes. That is, the 10 extreme physiques. Ren Zhu's 10 children died one by one, and Ren Zhu was about to die of old age. But at the end, Ren Zhu gathered the corpse of his 10 children and sacrificed himself, all going into the stomach of the Derivation Gu. Derivation Gu's stomach burst, exploding in countless life spreading across the land, creating the first batch of mortals. These mortals did not have Ren Zhu or the 10 children's talent, but they could cultivate after awakening their aperture. Humanity thus grew and developed, forming today's size. Of course, that is all a mythological story. But according to the story, every one of us has Ren Zhu and his 10 children's bloodline in us. Tai Ruanan continued, the only thing is that most people have diluted bloodlines, or due to intermarriage, restricted each other and caused it to remain dormant. But some people when born have stronger bloodlines, and as they aged or cultivated, they would start going towards the extreme, with one bloodline dominating the rest. When it appears, that is the 10 extreme physiques. What is this 10 extreme physique? Fang Zheng asked. Don't tell me, Fang Yuan has one of the 10 extreme aptitudes. Gu Yubo was stunned. Very likely so. Only the 10 extreme physique would cause Fang Yuan to be so calm, and does not have much need for cultivation resources. And only the 10 extreme physique that dominates the A-grade talent can cause Fang Yuan to not have a hint of jealousy or envy, and only the 10 extreme physique can cause Fang Yuan to not reveal his aptitude, as he fears being killed earlier, thus choosing to conceal the truth. Tai Ruanan spoke quickly. Even Tai Shueling would not think of rebirth. Not to mention the young girl. Under all sorts of coincidences, she managed to conjecture a conclusion that was completely the opposite of the truth. Hearing so, everyone was dumbfounded. Tai Ruanan's analysis had proof and evidence, causing others to believe it. If not for this reason, what other explanation is there? Yes, yes. The 10 extreme physiques, 10 extreme physiques. It has to be the ancient moon desolate physique. Gu Yubo's heart was in turmoil, so excited that his body shuddered. Others might not know this, but he had the clan's secret history and knew many ancient secrets. Hundreds of years ago, the first-generation ancestor established the village at this spot and named it Gu Yu Village. The truth is, the first gen was not named Gu Yu at all. Why did he pick the name Gu Yu? It was a mystery. But before Gen 1 died, he once sighed, the bloodlines shall be passed down, there will be a great plan of centuries, ancient moon desolate the world shall shudder. He left behind those parting words, and in his will, it predicted that the Gu Yu clan would one day in the future produce a Gu master with one of the 10 extreme aptitudes, the ancient moon desolate body. He would cause the world to tremble and bring the Gu Yu clan towards a new golden age. He also mentioned to his descendants that if one day such a physique appeared, they had to be brought into the blood pond graveyard. As the clan leader, Gu Yubo knew the weakness of the 10 extreme physiques, but he had studied this will deeply, and found that the first-generation ancestor seemed to know a method to curb this weakness. And this method was kept in his coffin in the graveyard, in an eternal slumber with him. If the ancient moon desolate physique really appeared, bring him to the coffin. To think that Gu Yu Fang Yuan is that prophesied genius, the ancient moon desolate physique. Gu Yubo screamed in his heart. This cannot be. Under everyone's watchful eye, how can Big Brother cheat under everyone's gaze? Fang Zheng was completely taken aback, shaking his head, unable to accept this theory. Tai Ruanan looked at him in pity. If even Qi Qing could cheat, why couldn't Fang Yuan? The 10 extreme physiques have endless potential, unlimited possibilities. Maybe Fang Yuan awakened early, and maybe he deceived the bamboo gentleman, due to the 10 extreme physique. Or maybe Jia Jinsheng was killed by Fang Yuan, because he found out this secret of Fang Yuan's. Tai family young lady, speak with caution. Gu Bo's expression was unhappy, speaking in a low tone, words cannot be spoken mindlessly. Whether Jia Jinsheng is killed by Fang Yuan, that is not confirmed yet. Fang Yuan is my clan's member, and even if he did commit the act, how we are going to answer to the Jia family is also our matter. You are only here to investigate the case. Gu clan leader's attitude had changed 180 degrees. Before, he had thought Fang Yuan was a C-grade talent with no possibility of investment. But now, Fang Yuan was the ancient moon desolatine physique. Once it involved the first gen's prophecy in will, his value completely changed. He had to be protected, and even if the Jia family was offended, there will be no regret. Oh crap. This Gu clan leader just turned on his words. How shameless is he, changing his attitude so quickly. I should not have revealed the truth of the 10 extreme physiques so soon. The 10 extreme aptitudes rule over the A-grade talent, so it seems the Gu clan leader wants to protect Fang Yuan now. This will bring great obstruction to solving the case. What do I do now, father? Tai Ruanan's heart sank, and gritting her teeth, she subconsciously looked for her father's figure. Where's father? The young girl was stunned. Divine Investigator Tai was still around earlier, but in the blink of an eye he was gone. This discovery caused Gu Bo to tense up. Where could Tai Xueleng have gone at this time? Gu clan leader naturally related it to Fang Yuan. Fang Zheng, I am going to look for your big brother. Go inform the other clan elders, and quickly assemble to look for me. Leaving behind his instructions, Gu Bo activated his Gu worm and flew out from the window. Tai Ruanan snorted, running out of the room towards Fang Yuan's residence. In the entire hall, only Fang Zheng was left. How can this be? Fang Zheng's current state was not optimistic. His face was pale, his body on the verge of falling over, his spine devoid of all strength. He felt that his world was covered in darkness. He felt his world collapsing. How could it become like this? Brother's aptitude is the 10 extreme physique. My A-grade talent is nothing compared to him, a complete failure compared to him. As he thought and thought, Fang Zheng's tears fell down. At this moment, all of his spirit was dampened. All this time, his greatest achievement was beating Fang Yuan in aptitude. All his confidence was built upon this. But right now, he was told this cruel fact, his aptitude was nothing compared to his brother. His proudest and most confident area had been suppressed by Fang Yuan. The confidence he had built up after so long, collapsed in an instant. Big brother. He raised his head, allowing his tears to flow like a river. He screamed in his heart, from start to end, you've been watching a show all along. Seeing me jump up and down, looking at my clown-like performance. The corners of his eye looked at the wall again. The images turned and moved, and people moved all over the place with countless voices praising Fang Zheng's performance. However, Fang Yuan alone stood among the people, his face calm as he watched. Peacefully watching just like that. Fang Zheng suddenly felt that in this image, he who was covered in this light of hope, was so childish, so eye-piercing. In his heart, Fang Yuan's calm dark irises showed a divine expression. His image was gradually enlarged, getting taller and taller until he was unable to climb over, as high as a mountain reaching into the clouds. Those calm eyes looked at him from that mountain high up in the sky, staring at Fang Zheng's pathetic appearance who was at the foot of the mountain. Those eyes were like they were saying, Fang Zheng, my laughable little brother, you won't do, won't do. Like the echoes in a valley, reverbing in Fang Zheng's heart. He felt a strong depression. Unimaginable depression, suppressing him until he could not breathe properly. He thought he had gotten rid of this feeling, but to think that today this feeling assaulted his heart again. In fact, it was more intense than before by 100 times. Ah! I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Fang Zheng's face twitched, veins popping on his forehead. He was drowning in his delusions, gripping his own throat tightly. With a plop, he fell onto the ground kneeling. Because he lacked oxygen, his face went red and his tongue stretched out, his eyes gradually popping out. No. I don't want to die, I really don't want to die. His other hand grabbed the tile on the ground, but as he used too much strength, even his nails broke and blood bled. The intense pain increased Fang Zheng's desire to live. His body had no injuries, but in his heart, he had received a fatal injury. He could not get up, for the pride sustaining him had already shattered. He felt that he did not have the face to see anyone, he was unable to face up to reality, to his older brother. He had become a huge joke, an ironic clown. His heart was like dying ash, but this ash still had small embers burning. So what if he is the 10 extreme aptitude? Brother, you did something wrong. You killed someone, you should not have done so. Right, that's right. You have to pay for your sins of murdering, big brother. Jia Jinsheng was killed by you, right? You walked on the wrong path, you did something wrong, so what if your aptitude is better than me? Ring. Something seemed to have sounded off near his ear. A lump of fire started to burn in Fang Zheng's heart. The dying ember resurrected. The hand gripping his throat gradually let go. Fang Zheng's body was covered in sweat as he kneeled on the ground, one hand sustaining himself as the hand was full of injuries from grabbing the tile. Droplets of sweat flowed down his face and nose, and onto the file. His distorted, horrifying face had gradually calmed down. A gust of wind blew along the door and windows, into this hall. The cold wind of the night sky stimulated his body as he shuddered. He. Fang Zheng half laid on the ground as he laughed, his voice shrill and eerie. The light of the fire danced around his face along with the wind. As it shone on the young man's face, it was not of warmth and brightness, but it resembled the devil's dance. Chapter 182, Blood Pond Graveyard. There's no one here. Turning the house upside down, Gu Bo did not find Fang Yuan anywhere. A huge rock weighed on his heart. With Fang Yuan and Tai Xueling's sudden disappearance, it easily caused him to relate them together. Speak, where is Fang Yuan? Gu Bo's face was grim like water, as he screamed at Tai Ruanan who just arrived. How would I know where Fang Yuan is? Tai Ruanan's attitude was tough. Even against a rank 4 expert, she did not relent. Humph, why did Tai Xueling go missing? Tai family's young lady, can you give me an explanation? Gu Bo said as he got closer to Tai Ruanan. The young girl's expression was slightly stunned. The truth was, this matter had been very peculiar from the start. The original plan was that her father and her would come here next year. Back then, Tai Xueling was solving another case when a white crane suddenly descended from the sky. The white crane carried a letter, and passed it to Tai Xueling. After seeing this letter, Tai Xueling changed his plans and put down the case at hand, heading immediately towards Qingmao Mountain. If not for the letter, the Tai family father and daughter would not have gotten here so early. As his daughter, Tai Ruanan knew her father well. Normally, only exceptional cases would cause Tai Xueling to make such a decision. But, what caused her to not understand was that this Qingmao Mountain case was only about Jia Jinsheng's death. Although Jia Jinsheng's death involved the asset struggle of the Jia family, its severity level was merely average, and was far below the point where the divine investigator has to put so much emphasis on. Towards this, Tai Ruanan was always doubtful. And now, Tai Xueleng mysteriously disappeared, not even telling his own daughter. Where did he go? What did he do? Father, you have an injury, please take care of your body. Tai Ruanan was worried. This situation had happened several times before. Every time, it was when Tai Xueleng was fighting against a strong foe and could not distract himself to protect Tai Ruanan, thus choosing to battle alone. His injuries right now were caused by a strong foe under such circumstances previously. Although father is injured, he is after all a rank 5 expert. Ordinary rank 4 Gu masters are not his match. Father, I believe in you, I will wait for you to return. Tai Ruanan's eyes shone with light as she encouraged herself. Guyu Bo got closer as the young girl raised her head, staring right at the Guyu clan leader. Explanation. You want an explanation, but does it mean I need to give you one? Guyu Bo's face grew even grimmer as he said, Little wretch, you sure talk tough, it seems I can only take you captive and use you to exchange for our clan's Fong Yuan. He. Tai Ruanan laughed instead. Guyu clan leader, would you really dare to do such a thing? My uncle is the current Tai clan leader, do you want to cross swords with my Tai family? Guyu Bo stopped in his tracks. He was anxious and almost forgot. Tai family. It was but a super clan, having thousands of years of legacy, standing strong even today. Standing tall in the Tai clan mountain fort was the demon suppression tower, imprisoning countless demonic Gu masters, the symbol of the righteous faction. Guyu clan was only a slightly average clan, and was smaller than Jia clan. But Jia clan was also merely a young clan, unable to compare with the Tai clan. Even in the entire southern border, the Tai clan is a first-class powerhouse, a large clan with strong foundations. Tai Ruanan's words softened. Guyu clan leader, I am not here to be enemies with you. But please believe in my sincerity. I do not know where father went, but I will not leave or secretly run away. The Tai family only dies in battle, there are no cowards that run from battle. Not only will I stay here, I will also arrest the criminal that killed Jia Jinsheng. Fong Yuan might not be the murderer. Guyu Bo frowned, showing a fierce expression. But he might be. Tai Ruanan stared, her heroism overflowing. At this point she was refusing to relent. Both sides stared for a long time. Tai Ruanan continued, Fong Yuan went missing, so it is very likely that he is escaping for his crimes, thus he has greater suspicion. But I will definitely not malign an innocent party. Humph, I hope so. Guyu Bo swung his sleeve and left. 15 minutes later. Gurgle gurgle. The spirit spring's whirlpool moved violently as a lotus image flickered above the spring water like an image. Pieces of primeval stones were thrown in by Fong Yuan, causing the appearance of the heavenly essence treasure lotus to become clearer. Earlier at the classmate gathering, they gave me around 10,000 primeval stones. Together with Guyu Mo Chen's 40,000, I've already thrown them all in. Why is it that this heavenly essence treasure lotus still hasn't shown its true body? Fong Yuan stared intently through the crystal walls, glaring at the center of the spirit spring, feeling uncertain. The heavenly essence treasure lotus was very precious. After continuous advancing and reaching rank 6, its value would be no less than the spring-autumn cicada. Even in his previous life, Fong Yuan had only heard of it, and never interacted with it. Thus right now, it was his first time seeing one, and so he was slightly unsure. But he soon calmed himself, laughing, around 50,000 primeval stones, it's more than enough. Why am I worrying over nothing here? so what if the refinement fails? He. Thinking so, he no longer hesitated. Taking in a deep breath, he jumped up, knocking onto the crystal wall. This wall was formed by the moat Gu. When Fang Yuan knocked onto it, it was like jumping into the water. There was a ripple in the walls as he was instantly swallowed up. Water surrounded Fang Yuan from all directions. Fang Yuan opened his eyes, but he could not see the Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus. The Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus could only be seen through the water crystal walls before extraction. Fang Yuan knew this well, and was not surprised. He had already estimated the distance, and even accounted for the refraction of the light due to the water, and grabbed according to his memory. This grab was like grabbing out of thin air, conjuring a lotus. The lotus was blue and white, its petals closed, looking like a lamp filled with a holy aura. But it had its own consciousness, and even though it was grabbed by Fang Yuan, it resisted. But that was nothing. Just by leaking a little of the spring-autumn cicada's aura, this rank 3 flower Gu was instantly refined. Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus obtained. In the spring water, Fang Yuan's lips curled into a smile. He willed, and the Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus turned into a white-blue light, shooting into his aperture. Without the Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus, the numerous whirlpools in the spirit spring vanished. The spring water that was filled with vitality turned into a puddle of still water without any signs of life. The spirit spring is no more. This place is no longer safe, I have to leave as soon as possible. Fang Yuan's expression turned serious, and just as he was about to leave, something suddenly happened. Deep in the spirit spring, a blinding blood-colored light shot out. A large suction force suddenly appeared. Caught off guard, Fang Yuan was sucked deep into the water. The spring water turned red, becoming blood water, wrapping around Fang Yuan completely, dragging him down. Sky Canopy Gu. Thunderwings Gu. In the moment of crisis, Fang Yuan screamed in his heart and a white armor appeared on his body. At the same time, a pair of large lightning wings appeared behind his back. Thunderwings spread, giving Fang Yuan an upward force. But the blood water came endlessly, and its suction force became greater and greater, there was no way to oppose it. Puff. Hearing the water all around him, Fang Yuan was dragged by the currents, along the tunnel, heading straight down. Just when his breath was used up, the surrounding pressure vanished. Fang Yuan took a deep breath. At least he did not die of suffocation, but he found that he was falling from a high spot. He subconsciously activated his wings, but the Thunderwings Gu was in bad shape. The originally strong wings were tired and soft. Fang Yuan's heart sank. He tried his best to maintain his balance in the air, slowing his descent. This was an area underground. It was not dark, but filled with red light. Fang Yuan was falling from about 15 meters, and below him was a pond. But this underground pond was not of the transparent color, it was red, like blood water. No, it is blood water. The piercing blood stench assaulted Fang Yuan as he continued to fall. This situation was weird no matter how he looked at it, so for safety, Fang Yuan did not want to land in this bloody pond. Chainsaw Golden Centipede. He activated the Chainsaw Golden Centipede, his palm entering the centipede's mouth and swinging it like a whip. The golden centipede's body stretched to the longest, and its tail stabbed into the mountain wall at the side. Fang Yuan willed with his mind, and the golden centipede's body constricted. This way, it brought his body to the side of the mountain wall. These walls were slippery and did not have a good landing spot. But as Fang Yuan relied on the Chainsaw Golden Centipede, he managed to find an uneven area and placed his feet above. Where the fuck is this? Stabilizing his body, Fang Yuan immediately observed the surroundings. According to his estimations, this should be in a place deeper underground, even below the underground cave. How can there be such a place? Fang Yuan was shocked. In his previous life, he was not strong enough to learn about the secrets of the higher-ups. The truth is, this was the Blood Pond Graveyard, the forbidden grounds that buried the first generation's coffin. Even among clan elders, only one or two knew this secret. Fang Yuan looked down. This blood pond shone with a bloody radiance. Its circumference was even larger than the village, emitting an eerie and scary aura. At the top of the cave, there was up to 100 holes that had water gushing down, bringing the shells, turtles, snakes and fish from the river with it. Swoosh swoosh. Streams of water continued to pour down from the holes, entering into the blood pond. The blood water was turbulent as numerous seafood moved around, entering the pond. However, in a few breaths, all the blood in their bodies were sucked out. They turned into dry corpses and floated on the surface of the water, appearing and disappearing as the waves moved them about. The blood pond's redness only intensified. As Fang Yuan looked on, his iris shrunk a little. If he had landed in this pond, even with the Sky Canopy Gu's protection, he would not be in good shape. He continued to observe, and other than fresh dry corpses, there were also some bones in the water. Some were fish bones, bear bones, and even human skeletons. This was a giant burial ground. It was creepy, and bloody. The ripples and waves in the blood pond raged on and swept into the surrounding walls, the bright red and glowing blood water entering the surrounding soil. This caused the soil to all turn into a bright red color, turning into red soil. Chapter 183, Blood Sea Ancestor. Wait a second, red soil. Fang Yuan's mind jolted at the sight. He stretched his hand out and grabbed the wall beside him, taking out a lump of red soil. This red soil was very soft and emitted a faint red light. Fang Yuan merely pressed it lightly, but it crumbled down. So, it was like this. He seemed to have come to a realization. The first time he had entered the secret cave inside the rock crack, he saw that the secret cave was full of this red soil which emitted faint glow. There was no need for any other lighting source. He had felt it weird at the time because Qing Mao Mountain soil was blue-black in color. He had thought this was arranged by the flower wine monk, but now it seemed that the source was this strange blood lake. Fang Yuan felt even more wary. His 500 years of experience had almost become an intuition. This place is not only strange, but also dangerous. I don't have the time to dilly-dally, I need to think of how to leave here. Fang Yuan raised his head and looked at the cave walls, where hundreds of holes were in the top part of the wall, which was the one connected to the spirit spring. Fang Yuan hesitated for a moment. Water could flow down here, but it didn't mean that the passages were wide enough for a human to pass through. And Fang Yuan looked grave as he tried shaking his two wings. However, he couldn't control these thunder wings perfectly like before, and the originally clear blue thunder was now stained with some scarlet. It gave off a contradictory feeling of power and weakness existing at the same time. The Thunderwings Gu had become unreliable. It was very possible for it to screw up and drop Fang Yuan in the middle of flight. Swoosh! An inexplicable undercurrent surged up from within the blood lake, giving off the enormous aura of rank 5 Gu. That is. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk, a long shadow gradually appeared in the blood lake. Its length surpassed 40 meters and its width over 6 meters. This was an enormous python. It dwelled in the depths of the blood lake, but now that it had smelled out the scent of flesh on Fang Yuan, it came out to begin the hunt. Damn it! Fang Yuan felt a pressing urge in his heart. Right now, he was relying on the chainsaw golden centipede to puncture the wall, barely managing to hang onto the soft red soil. And with his long hair and black gown, he looked like a black ant compared to the enormous blood lake. Hundreds of black dots appeared in the blood lake and rose up, just like a traveling shoal of fish. Whoosh! They were much faster than the giant python and flew out of the blood lake within moments, revealing their appearance. These were not fish, but bats. These blood-colored bats had 2 long pointed ears with 2 pairs of wings. The main pair of wings were rather big, whereas the secondary pair of wings was on the smaller side and was below the main wings. They didn't have claws, but the edges of the 2 pairs of wings were as sharp as steel blades. Rank 3, Bladewing Blood Bat Gu. A name immediately appeared in Fang Yuan's mind. These Bladewing Blood Bat groups were directing their intense murderous aura towards him, but the first thing that appeared in his mind was that image. In the image from the photo Audiobook Gu, the flower wine monk's whole body was covered with blood, with severe injuries to the point of being near death. Moonshadow Gu was not able to cause such injuries, but these Bladewing Blood Bats were a different matter. Could it be that the flower wine monk had come to this place and was injured by these Bladewing Blood Bats? Fang Yuan's thoughts revolved rapidly. Flower wine monk's death had been shrouded in riddles. Now, it appeared extremely likely that it was due to this place. Bladewing Blood Bat. Fang Yuan murmured. In fact, this Gu wasn't a stranger to him. Even though this Gu was a rank 3 Gu, it was very easy to feed, its food being blood. In his previous life, he had established the Bloodwing Devil sect, and the symbol of the sect was precisely the Bladewing Blood Bat. The resources from the Devil sect were more than enough to support close to 10,000 Bladewing Blood Bat Gu, allowing the sect to establish a terrifying might and spread terror. More precisely, he owed his success to Bladewing Blood Bats. After over 400 years in his previous life, he had accidentally obtained an inheritance from the Blood Sea ancestor. With the colonies of Bladewing Blood Bats and his own rank 5 cultivation, he became an overlord of a region. This Blood Sea ancestor was a rank 7 demonic path Gu master who took lives as easily as cutting grass, and his evil reputation was such that it resounded throughout the world, having his name recorded in history. At the beginning, he was just a mortal, but through luck and destiny, he became a Gu master of demonic path. He started out from the lowest of levels and rose up in ranks, before becoming an authority of demonic path after 800 years. He didn't have high aptitude, thus he had limited primeval essence in his aperture. Therefore, he had a crazed interest towards researching the fusion of Gu worms. Wild Gu worms possessed their own will and could absorb the natural primeval essence in the air by themselves. However, after a Gu worm was refined by a Gu master, its willpower would be dominated by the Gu master, and it would lose the ability to absorb the surrounding primeval essence. It would be able to only absorb the primeval essence in the Gu master's aperture. Blood Sea ancestor had invested a lot of efforts in researching Gu which could absorb natural primeval essence even after being refined by a Gu master. The righteous Gu masters were very afraid of this. They were extremely worried that the Blood Sea ancestor would succeed in his research. As a result, they organized countless traps before moving in for the kill. In the end, Blood Sea ancestor wasn't able to succeed, but it also wasn't a complete failure. He succeeded in producing the fusion recipes of Bladewing Blood Bat, Blood Guillotine and Blood Frenzy Gu. Rank 3 Bladewing Blood Bat Gu was his first accomplishment. It was very easy to feed, but it still needed the Gu master to provide primeval essence. The colony of Bladewing Blood Bats was very special, the Gu master just needed to control a male bat, and they could indirectly command all the other female bats. Blood Frenzy Gu was his second accomplishment. This Gu was formless, as a ball of blood essence, it survived by attaching itself to other beings. It was a rank 4 Gu and had a very unusual ability. Every goo worm infected by its aura could absorb natural primeval essence every now and then. But it had a great disadvantage: the goo worms affected by the blood frenzy goo would gradually leave the control of the goo master and would turn into a pool of blood after a period of time. Blood guillotine was the Blood Sea ancestor's last accomplishment. This goo was a rank 5 goo and was no doubt more advanced than the previous two. Its usability and feeding were fused into one. Using wars to sustain itself, it multiplied by swallowing Goo Master's blood. It didn't need the Goo Master to provide it with any primeval essence. Unfortunately, after the Blood Sea ancestor created the Blood Guillotine, due to the many battles and the entrapment by the righteous path, he was defeated. He suffered from fatal wounds that could not be healed, and he carved out a bloody escape from the layers of entrapment. The righteous path figures were worried about his final counterattack, which could endanger themselves, so they didn't have any inclination to chase after him and looked on as he made his getaway. Since then, these righteous path figures would regret the moment every time they recalled it. They regretted that they let him get away. The Blood Sea ancestor knew his death was a sure thing, so he started setting up a large-scale inheritance. In the limited time before his death, with the strength of his rank 7 cultivation, he unexpectedly set up hundreds of thousands of inheritance grounds. His inheritances extended everywhere from the middle continent to the southern border and other places. Right before his death, he smiled devilishly: "The blood path is not alone, the legacy will continue for all eternity." This statement was not in the least false, for countless Goo Masters benefited from his inheritances, and thus the demonic path flourished greatly. No matter the Bladewing Blood Bat Goo, the Blood Frenzy Goo or the Blood Guillotine, they were all very easy to raise and multiply. Maybe in some unremarkable valleys, at poor villages, at no-man deserts, or beside some mountain paths, you might find 2 or 3 Goo left casually by the Blood Sea ancestor. These Goo were easy to raise and didn't have a high demand for primeval essence, thus they could easily be used by Goo Masters with ordinary aptitudes. Survival was a difficult thing in this world, so which Goo Master wouldn't thirst for stronger powers? The Goo worms left by the Blood Sea ancestor represented a whole new strength. This strength was a quick and easy way to rise in power, and it became more welcomed than other Goo worms. Power itself had no sins. It became good in the hands of good, and evil in the hands of evil. But in the world, how many people could have a resolute mind after a sudden increase in strength? A man who got money would often become fickle. A sudden rise in strength would certainly nourish ambitions that weren't there before. As a result, many Goo Masters that obtained the Blood Sea ancestor's legacy would become a devil that massacred everything. Even many righteous path figures had changed their sides. The inheritances of Blood Goo brought great turmoil and danger towards the whole world. In each inheritance of the Blood Sea ancestor, there were often only 2 to 3 Goo. However, these inheritances were like a spark of fire that could cause a prairie fire if left alone. There would be demonic path Goo Masters who would come into possession of the Blood Goo every so often and cause chaos. Some of them would fail, killed away in some villages. Some would succeed temporarily and become a huge figure, harming a whole region. No matter if they succeeded temporarily, or failed, at the moment of their exhaustion, they would also leave behind new blood inheritances. Thus, the blood calamity continued endlessly. Not only did it not end with the death of the Blood Sea ancestor through the combined strength of the righteous path, it instead thrived even more greatly with the foundations left behind, unable to be eliminated as it continued for eternity. It was to the extent that the righteous path figures would frequently curse these accursed Blood Goo Masters. We have already killed waves upon waves of them. But if we become even a bit careless, we will see a new one coming up from nowhere. By now, the Blood Sea inheritances were already publicly recognized as the most popular in the whole world, with the greatest number of inheritances. There was no competition. In the strictest sense, Fang Yuan had received a favor from the Blood Sea ancestor. In my previous life, only after over 400 years, I found a blood sea inheritance and was then able to begin my rule. Now, if I can subdue these blood bats, it will be like completing 400 years of effort. Blood bats charged at him, but Fang Yuan was not afraid. He had the spring-autumn cicada, so these bats would submit without question in front of the rank 6 aura. The only problem was the rank 5 blood python that was still concealed, hiding within the blood lake. But this situation is somewhat fishy. The blood sea ancestors' inheritances normally only have 2-3 gu worms. How come this place has hundreds of bladewing blood bats? Could it be that rumor is true? The rumor said that the blood sea ancestors' hundreds of thousands of inheritances were diversions, and the true inheritances were only a few. In these few inheritances, the blood sea ancestor was said to have concealed his best gu worms, or research insights or fusion recipes. Could this place be a true inheritance ground of the blood sea ancestor? When Fang Yuan thought of this, his heart started to beat loudly. His thoughts moved like lightning, and although he thought of many things, only a little time had passed in reality. Bladewing blood bats charged at him one after another. Fang Yuan was calm, his long hair and black gown fluttering in the air as he climbed up the wall and was going to summon spring-autumn cicada. But right at this time, there was a sudden change. As expected, this place is hiding the blood calamity. A deep and firm voice, loud like the clash between iron and stone, came from the top of the cave and echoed within the blood lake. Divine Investigator Tai Shueleng. Chapter 184, Rank 5 Intense Battle. Tai Shueleng, why is he suddenly here? Fang Yuan recognized the voice, feeling shocked. This loud voice echoed above the blood pond, causing intense waves to form. This is Heaven Earth Magnificent Sound Gu. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth. As the loud voice hurt his eardrums, he felt his entire brain buzzing. Heaven Earth Magnificent Sound Gu, a rank 5 Gu, was from a sound-type Gu. Once activated, it could form soundwave attacks that had a wide range, belonging to an extremely strong area of effect attacking type Gu. The voice that Fang Yuan was hearing now, is only Tai Shueleng's probing. It was just him slightly shouting and not activating his Gu completely. This intensity was like Fang Yuan using the Moonlight Gu to open the purple gold rock. It was a type of in-depth control of his Gu worm. Of course, the Heaven Earth Magnificent Sound Gu also had its weakness. If used for long, it would cause great strain to the Gu master's throat and vocal cord. Once his limit is exceeded, the Gu master would become completely mute, losing his ability to speak. Bam! A loud explosion occurred as blood and water flew everywhere. The top half of the huge python's body appeared in Fang Yuan's vision. Blood River Python. Fang Yuan's irises shrunk as he saw the python with its bright smooth blood-red scales, and its head around the size of an elephant. Scarlet gold-colored sharp bone spikes protruded out from above its eyes, showing its ferocious and frenzy aura completely. Blood River Python. I remember that in the Guyu clan's history, after the first-generation clan leader created the village, a Blood River Python appeared and was a huge threat to the village. Legend says the first gen killed it, but don't tell me. Fang Yuan's thoughts moved, thinking of something. The Blood River Python was humongous, snake head high in the air, its purple irises staring right at Fang Yuan with two ruthless glances. It had a ruthless nature, untamable and fed on blood. Even if the spring-autumn cicada's aura tried to suppress it, that would only cause it to become more frenzied. Among rank 5 Gu worms, it was one of the hardest to refine. But after the Blood River Python took a look at Fang Yuan up on the walls, it raised its head higher and turned towards the top of the cave. At the top of the cave, there was another tiny shadow, floating down from one of the holes at the ceiling. He wore a bronze mask, his hands behind his back, his gaze cool and calm. Although compared to the Blood River python, he was small like an ant, but the imposing aura coming from his body caused a great pressure to emit from him at all directions, like a heavenly being descending down to earth. Righteous Gu. A mind-type Gu that only someone who upheld justice could activate. People who were villainous or had weak minds and aspirations, were often scared shitless under the influence of the righteous Gu, afraid of everything as they had a guilty conscience, their battle spirit decreasing in battle and causing them to feel an inability to defeat Tai Xueleng, thus collapsing without battle. Screech screech. Under the pressure of the righteousness, the blade-wing blood bat Gu were frantic and could only scream shrilly as a strong pressure pushed down on their bodies. Their wings could only continue to flap as they struggled to stay in mid-air, floating up and down. They could barely take care of themselves, much less bother about Fang Yuan. Even the ferocious Blood River python slightly lowered its head, feeling Tai Xueleng's supreme presence. What a good righteous Gu! Fang Yuan climbed on the wall, smirking. This suppression from the righteous Gu had no effect on him. Only those with weak minds could be greatly weakened. He was a supreme demonic overlord, his mind strong as steel, how could this illusionary pressure scare him? Fang Yuan's immunity caused Tai Xueleng to call out in shock, feeling very surprised. The righteous Gu had been with him for many years, and he was very sure about the Gu's effect. Righteous Gu's effect varied. It attacked the mind directly, sometimes having great effect while other times having no effect. But the times where it did not work, were almost non-existent. Even righteous people felt a strong suppression in their hearts. After all, their factions did not determine a person's kindness and evil, there are no perfect humans. But Tai Xueleng knew deeply about Fang Yuan's crimes. The first time they met, he already implanted a Gu on Fang Yuan, using it to track his whereabouts. After that, Tai Xueleng could faintly discern the changes in the surroundings where Fang Yuan went. Those who committed great sins, under the righteous Gu, would definitely waver. But Tai Xueleng also met a good number of demonic Gu masters, that were unaffected by the righteous aura. There is only one type of person who would be unaffected by the righteous Gu even after committing sins. These are the people with real demonic nature, in the deepest parts of their hearts. They are crazy and adamant, not treating their sins as sins, but thinking of it as natural. To think that this Fang Yuan has such an intense demonic nature. I'll get rid of this great demon here first. If Fang Yuan manages to survive, I will come and finish him later. Tai Xueleng hated evil with a burning passion. With a cold snort, he turned towards the Blood River python. Once he appeared, he was locked on by this Blood River python. As long as he was distracted in killing Fang Yuan, he would reveal a weakness. Tai Xueleng had such a severe injury on him, and at the same time there might be a powerful enemy hidden in the background and observing him. Thus, he did not dare to lose focus. He stared at this Blood River python for a moment, before looking further into the blood pond. Not long ago, he received a mysterious letter. Inside there was concrete evidence that Guyu village held a bloody calamity. This letter was held by a red-crowned crane coming from the sky, with a questionable source. But Tai Xueleng would rather believe it than miss it. After all, the blood calamity was not ordinary, he could not take it lightly. If he lost focus, it would expand and spread like a plague, harming the world. The best method to deal with it was to eliminate the source before it forms into a strong force. Coincidentally, he already had another request at hand, it was Jia Fu paying a high cost to ask him to investigate Jia Jinxing's death. Tai Xueleng thus brought his daughter and rushed to Qingmao Mountain. He ordered his daughter to investigate Jia Jinxing's case. It was to nurture and train Tai Ruanan, but also to act as a red herring, stalling for time and hiding in the background investigating this issue. The first time when he met Fang Yuan, he implanted a shared sense Gu on him. Although it was merely at a whim, he did it due to his accumulated experience and instinct. Shared sense Gu was formless and colorless, like a signet. He had implanted over tens of them, but the only successful one was the first one he implanted. First Gen Guyu, I know you are not dead. You hid for nearly 1,000 years plotting this scheme, but unfortunately, it's all going down the drain. Tai Xueling opened his mouth, causing the air to tremble. But there were no changes to the blood pond. Instead, the blood river python opened its mouth, screaming furiously. It was born ferocious, unable to be suppressed. The righteous Gu triggered its ferocity. Bam! It stretched its body abruptly, the huge snake body rising with the tides of blood, bringing a killing intent that tore through the skies, pouncing towards Tai Xueling who was in midair. Tai Xueling was already wary against the blood river python, and he quickly moved, avoiding the blood river python's bite. The python's body was too long, and its momentum was too strong. It ended up crashing all the way onto the ceiling of the cave. A loud bang ensued as a portion of the ceiling collapsed, and large amounts of debris fell and caused much commotion in the blood lake waves. Humph, first Gen Guyu, you think you are safe with just a blood python protecting you? You might as well appear now, Tai Xueling snickered. He moved about in the air, and the blood river python's attacks were like a gentle rain pelting on him. The blood river python attacked furiously, getting more worked up as it continued to miss. It had unparalleled strength, able to display it all and cause great damage. The entire space was shaking from its strength like an earthquake, and the blood lake began to raise strong ripples. Fuck! Fang Yuan was caught by the crossfire, and as the red soil softened, his foothold had been ruined. He could only use the chainsaw golden centipede as well as the Thunderwings Gu to move along the walls. Meanwhile the rock debris was falling down like rain. As he had expected, the Thunderwings Gu was really in bad shape. Fang Yuan's Thunderwings were extremely weak and lethargic, unable to provide him much boost in speed. But the strange thing was, the Thunderwings Gu was taking lesser and lesser primeval essence from Fang Yuan. During the period where Fang Yuan moved about, it started to absorb primeval essence from the surrounding air to replenish itself. At first, this situation was uncommon and happened in short intervals. As Fang Yuan continued to dodge, he did not notice initially. But eventually, the intervals got shorter and the duration lengthened. At the same time, the Thunderwings Gu got weaker and weaker. I get it, it's the blood frenzy Gu. Fang Yuan's mind shone with inspiration. Only when affected by the blood frenzy Gu will such a situation occur. Plop. Fang Yuan put in 100% effort, but eventually still fell into the blood lake. The blood river python was rampaging everywhere, using its thick tail to sweep across the place, causing large debris to fall like rain. Fang Yuan activated the sky canopy Gu, covering himself with a white armor. He was good at swimming. In his previous life he had lived in the Eastern Sea for a long time, thus he had sufficient training. The falling rocks were as large as houses, and he tried his best to avoid them. Sometimes he swam underwater, sinking into the lake to use the water to reduce the impact of the rocks. But for the smaller fragments, some were fist-sized while others were like grindstones, and he could not avoid them all. The white light armor was firm like a monolith, but it could not handle the full impact of the rocks, causing him to feel pain when they hit his armor. At the same time, his primeval essence also decreased with each hit endured. Thankfully, the righteous Gu's power was surrounding the area, causing the group of Bladewing Blood Bat Gu to fly around randomly, not finding trouble with Fang Yuan. But Fang Yuan's expression was solemn. The Thunderwings Gu was half crippled after being corrupted by the blood frenzy Gu, and without a special goo to clean it, it would soon turn into a puddle of blood water, turning into a new pollution origin. How did it get infected by the blood frenzy goo? Fang Yuan considered the previous events, and there was only one explanation: in this blood water, there was a blood frenzy goo inside. The Thunderwings goo continued to weaken, and started to become uncontrollable. Thankfully he activated the white light armor in time, otherwise if the blood frenzy goo got into his body and entered his aperture, most of his goo worms would get corrupted. But if his primeval essence was expended, or if this armor was broken, the consequences would be severe. I have to leave this place as soon as possible. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, trying to find a way out from the surroundings as he swam around. Large amounts of red soil on the mountain walls collapsed from the battle. The cave ceiling was completely destroyed beyond recognition as well. Tai Xueling floated in mid-air, engaging the Blood River Python in combat. Rank 5 battles were not something Fang Yuan could interfere in. The more a Gu master advanced, the larger the difference in battle strength among ranks. Maybe with a sweep of the Blood River Python's tail, it could break the light armor and cause the Sky Canopy Gu to be gravely injured, breaking all of Fang Yuan's bones in the process. Perhaps with a simple wave of Tai Xueling's hands, it could send Fang Yuan falling into an impasse. The situation right now was like two giant elephants fighting, while Fang Yuan was a domestic cat. Although he had tiny claws, there was nothing he could do. Wait, a cave entrance. Chapter 185, Gu 1st Gen, 5 Great Flying Zombies. The tunnel entrance wasn't big and should have been buried by the red soil before. But now, as the blood lake surged up in a huge wave, the red soil in the surrounding walls were washed away, sinking down in the lake. As a result, the tunnel entrance cleared up again and became visible. No matter what, this tunnel entrance was like a light of hope. Fang Yuan immediately turned around and started swimming towards it. Boom! Another intense explosion occurred in the air. The enormous force of the explosion struck the surroundings and violently pushed Fang Yuan forward. Damn it! He cursed. Great amounts of red soil had fallen down and buried the tunnel entrance again. Iron Fist Grappling Gu. In the air, Tai Xueling took a deep breath and slowly extended his right hand when he felt the time was right. There was a ripple in the air before him and a giant black iron hand appeared. It appeared slow but pressed down on the Blood River Python's tail within moments. Blood River Python struggled fiercely, and with its wet scales and slick body, the iron hand slipped off it and burst out with golden red light. Tai Xueling, however, had plenty of battle experiences and wasn't downcast. He slightly raised his head, puffed up his cheeks and blew strongly towards the Blood River Python. Whoosh, pitch black oil fell down like waterfall and formed into the shape of a dragon in the air, before plunging towards the Blood River Python. Oil Dragon Gu. The Blood River Python was furious. It snarled and started tearing at the Oil Dragon Gu. The Black Oil Dragon was not in the least inferior to Blood River Python in terms of physique, but it was only a rank 4 Gu and did not have a physical body. It was soon torn to shreds by Blood River Python. Tai Xueling smiled, on the contrary. Beasts were beasts. If a Gu master had personally controlled it, they would have seen through this classic and ordinary battle tactic. The Blood River Python had been refined, and although it had a Gu master's imprint on it, it didn't have the wisdom of humans. The Oil Dragon was exterminated, causing backlash to the Oil Dragon Gu in the aperture. Tai Xueling didn't care. He stopped using the Oil Dragon Gu, then began activating Fire Dragon Gu. He gave a loud shout and his body shook, and then a Gu that looked like a flame shot out of his aperture. The flame quickly formed into a fire snake, winding around its own body. As the fire snake flew, it grew bigger, then it immediately started growing scales, claws, horns and sharp teeth. Its face started becoming more like that of a horse. It had changed into an enormous fire dragon. This fire dragon Gu was also a rank 4 Gu, but it was able to cause a lot of pain to Blood River Python. This was because of the oil dragon. When it was wiped out, great amounts of black oil stuck to Blood River Python's body, and now the fire dragon was causing the oil to catch fire and roast the Blood River Python. Besides the snake, the black oil had also fallen on the lake surface. Right now, a raging inferno was burning on the bright red blood lake, causing the air temperature to increase rapidly. The fire dragon was not the Blood River Python's match at all. It suffered heavy injuries and kept on shrinking. But every time this happened, it would drill into the raging inferno and recover some of its power. With the raging inferno, the fire dragon had a home ground advantage. Blood River Python was constantly being burned as it fought with the fire dragon. There was even a smell of scorched meat coming off it. Blood River Python had a berserk nature and it would erupt with even stronger counterattack if it got suppressed. But right now, it was actually shrinking back, giving up on the fire dragon and diving deep into the blood lake. Humans were the highest of all living beings and possessed the intelligence to develop new concepts. With Tai Xueleng's tactics, 2 rank 4 Gu were able to make the rank 5 Blood River Python retreat. But Gu were the essence of the world, containing the secrets of heaven and earth, a portion of the natural laws. And Blood River Python's ability was extreme self-recovery. As it sank to the bottom of the lake, the blood water continuously nourished it, rapidly healing the wounds on its body. The fire dragon had the field advantage, so did the blood python. As long as the blood lake existed, it was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. Fang Yuan's situation was even more perilous. The inferno on the surface of the blood lake was constantly spreading, burning even hotter, and the flames were roasting him alive. The pressure on the sky canopy Gu was getting bigger and bigger. But the most critical point was not this, but rather it was the increasing difficulty in breathing. The flames used great amounts of air to maintain their combustion, and this place is underground and was originally a half-sealed area, which meant it took more time to replenish the used oxygen. Fang Yuan was gradually starting to feel suffocated. Although Oil Dragon Gu and Fire Dragon Gu sent Blood River Python retreating with their combined efforts, this is only temporary. As long as there are large amounts of blood water, Blood River Python will recover with a terrifying rate. Once it comes out, it will have recovered to its peak state and the Fire Dragon Gu would no longer be its match. But, this is basic knowledge, it is impossible for Tai Xueleng to not know this. Then Fang Yuan bobbed up and down on the blazing lake, his thoughts were revolving rapidly. And his heart tensed when he thought of this. If he wasn't wrong, Tai Xueleng should have achieved his intention by making Blood River Python retreat. Tai Xueleng needed enough time and he needed the situation to be like this to prepare his following killing move. Sure enough, in the next moment, while floating in the air Tai Xueleng suddenly extended both his arms and a deep roar emerged from his mouth. He withdrew the righteous aura that had been suppressing everything, and wholeheartedly poured his rank 5 primeval essence into the copper mask. The copper mask started to brighten up. It was only a glimmer at first, but within few breaths of time, it burst out with an extremely dazzling green light, as bright as a fragment of the sun. The green light shone upon everything like a monarch overlooking the heavens and earth. For a moment, the red soil, blood lake and raging inferno were covered with a layer of dark green light. The green light contained a mystical power. Under this power, the mountain rocks began to shake and crumble. From above the cave, huge rocks came crumbling down, flying towards the copper mask. Great amounts of soil and rocks from the top to bottom of the red walls also slowly flew up. Tai Xueleng's face was already shrouded by the light from the copper mask. Great amounts of mountain rocks gathered around the copper mask and condensed together into a human shape. Debris continuously converged from all around and the rock figure kept on getting bigger. From 1 meter in the beginning, it rapidly grew to 3 meters, 5 meters, 8 meters, and finally reached 18 meters. Giant Mountain Puppet Gu. The giant figure with indomitable spirit descended towards the blood lake. Its 2 feet touched the bottom of the blood lake, but the water only reached up to about its waist. Its body was very robust and grand. Horse chariots could run on its 2 arms and it could hold an elephant on its fist. Its face looked simple and unadorned, it was the enlarged version of the copper mask. Fire Dragon, come. It spoke, and its voice seemed to shake the heavens and earth. The fire dragon which was churning in the fire sea flew up and coiled around the giant puppet's right arm like a snake, and its head rested on the right shoulder of the giant puppet. Next, the oil dragon Gu flew out and formed a pitch-black oil dragon which coiled around the giant puppet's left arm and its head rested on the left shoulder of the giant puppet. With dragons on his left and right, the giant figure appeared like a heavenly deity descending down. Fang Yuan used all his strength to swim towards the tunnel entrance. When the debris had flown and formed the giant puppet, the red soil covering the tunnel entrance had also gone with it, once again revealing the opening. This battlefield was becoming more dangerous, the tunnel entrance could be buried again at any time. Fang Yuan didn't dare to stay longer. The fire sea gradually died out, and suddenly a huge red wave rose from the blood lake. Blood River Python initiated its attack from the lake, it coiled around the giant puppet and moved upwards. The giant snake head smashed towards the giant puppet's face like a ram. This attack was very powerful and if it really struck, more than half of the giant puppet's head would be destroyed. Iron Fist Grappling. The giant puppet shouted, the air split open and an iron hand flew out, grabbing at the snake head. With a loud boom, the iron hand shattered but Blood River Python's attack was also stopped. Tai Shueleng won a brief respite. The giant puppet's 2 hands grabbed towards Blood River Python in tandem. Oil Dragon and Fire Dragon seized the chance and climbed Blood River Python. The 2 snake combined and formed a blazing flame, roasting Blood River Python. Blood River Python kept on hissing in pain and struggled furiously. But why would Tai Shueleng let it escape so easily? The giant puppet's hands were like pincers as they firmly pressed on the Blood River Python. The Blood River Python was not able to escape. Its body was scorched black, giving off the smell of burnt meat. This stimulated its vicious nature. Since it couldn't escape, it coiled around the giant puppet and violently contracted, trying to kill it by constriction. Although the giant puppet was made from condensed mountain rocks, its body had the softness of the red soil. With Blood River Python's constricting force, its waist quickly shrunk by a fold. Cracking sounds emerged, and fragments of rocks flew in all directions. Under the stimulation of death, Blood River Python burst forth with an even greater strength. Fang Yuan finally climbed to the edge of the tunnel entrance, when suddenly the giant puppet gave out coughing sounds. Tai Shueleng's old illness had reappeared. The giant puppet's hands loosened, and the Blood River Python hissed and its body suddenly jumped ahead. However, the giant puppet's hands tightened again. The Blood River Python opened its mouth wide and revealed its sharp fangs, its head crazily swaying, but it still fell short by a distance. It was not able to retaliate and it was gradually losing its strength, it would burn to death soon. But right at this moment, dense bloody fog rose up from the middle of the blood lake. Blood Frenzy Gu. Fang Yuan's eyes showed a hint of dread, he immediately climbed the tunnel entrance and went inside it. The bloody fog rapidly pervaded the air, and the raging inferno on the blood lake had completely extinguished. A whirlpool appeared in the middle of the blood lake. The whirlpool had started from the middle of the lake and quickly spread from there, growing bigger until its edges were touching the surrounding walls. Humph, Gu first head, you couldn't endure it anymore. The giant puppet coldly snorted. A giant blood wave reaching as high as 10 meters gushed out of the middle of the whirlpool. And from within the blood wave, a vertical crimson coffin gradually rose up. He 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 he. A hoarse and strange voice was transmitted from inside the coffin, and anyone that heard this voice would feel cold to the bone. Young Junior, thou dare spoil my plan, thou court death and I shall give it to thee. Before the voice had died away, the coffin lid shot out like a catapult, revealing a shriveled corpse. He had a scarlet face and fangs, his hair red like blood, his eyes deep and contained a fire that seemed about to extinguish. He had no skin, and thin strips of red muscles were clinging onto the white bones, giving him a shriveled and fierce look. Junior, thou art wounded but yet dare to provoke me. Today, thou shalt die. The corpse spoke, but there was no movement in its mouth, the voice had come from its abdomen. He kept on saying, thou, these were the speech habits of 1,000 years ago. Rank 5 Blood White Gu. Is he really the first head? Fong Yuan was flabbergasted, but wasn't surprised. In this magical world, there were plenty of Gu masters who lived for centuries. Besides using the most orthodox way of increasing lifespan through the lifespan Gu, there were also some demonic ways to make one live forever. For instance, the rank 2 roaming zombie Gu. If this Gu was used for too long, the Gu master would turn completely into a zombie, and as long as they sucked blood at specific times, they could live freely forever. The Gu you first had in front of him had used such a way. Blood White Gu was a major rank 5 advancement route of the roaming zombie Gu. Along with the Azura zombie, Heavenly Demon zombie, Nightmare zombie, and Plague zombie, they were called 5 great flying zombies. The lifespan Gu was difficult to find. The first head had turned himself into a blood-white flying zombie and buried himself here. Chapter 186, Spring and Autumn does not appear. In the Blood Lake, 2 strong foes opposed each other. Even the rank 5 Blood White is only a zombie at the end. First Gen Gu you are no longer a living person, you are full of death essence. Your aperture is dead too, and even though you can store primeval essence, every bit you use cannot be replenished, you cannot recover on your own, the giant puppet said coldly. He, although I cannot recover primeval essence, so what? I can continue to use primeval stones to regain primeval essence. You have an injury on you, yet you dare disturb me, die. First Gen Gu shouted. At once, blood mist spewed out, and as blood waves raged on, a large group of insects flew out from the blood lake. It was the rank 5 blood guillotine. At the same time, troops of blade-wing blood bats flew out from the cave ceiling and emerged from the blood lake, joining together and attacking towards the giant puppet. A large pack of bats, almost 1,000 of them, formed into a huge army. Although they were rank 3 and were a close combat type Gu, but numbers made up for quality, even the rank 5 Tai Xueling felt a headache fighting against them. But that was not the end, for after first Gen Gu's consciousness awakened, under his command, troops of blood bats continued to show up, gathering here. He had operated there for almost 1,000 years, and had a heaven-shattering scheme. He had converted the place into his personal backyard, thus having a great location advantage. Blood bat groups were organized, staying in formation in the air, continuing to move around like a strong army, surrounding the giant puppet. The blood river python stopped struggling, instead coiling up its body. This caused Tai Xueling to feel a threat, and he concentrated his mind even further. A Gu's power, although strong, was unintelligent. A blood bat army with or without a Gu master's control, had a hell of a difference. First Gen Gu only just appeared, and yet he has turned the tables, almost suppressing Tai Xueling. He has great location advantage, having his troops at his disposal, while Tai Shueleng has an injury on him, the situation is not looking good. Fang Yuan had hid into a cave in the walls, using the shadows to hide and observe the battle. But Tai Shueleng has roamed the southern borders for many years. With an injury on him but still entering this trap, he has to have some trump card. No matter what, there's going to be an intense battle soon, this entire district might even collapse. Should I stay here and observe? Staying here is very dangerous, this is the deepest part of the underground cave, I might get buried alive. If I stay and watch the show, what are the chances of me benefiting from their conflict? Fang Yuan thought quickly, evaluating the gains and losses. He was only rank 3 initial stage now, and there was a high risk in staying. As long as he got hit indirectly by one of their attacks, he would get heavily injured. But if he really gained something from this, surviving to the end, the benefits would be overwhelming. After all, what a rank 5 Gu master owns could help him save up to 100 years of hard work. High risk, high return. Fang Yuan heaved a long sigh, and planned to retreat. The situation was no longer under his control, there was too much risk in staying. Birds die for food, people die for fortune, these situations, he had seen much of them in his previous 500 years of living. He was vigilant in nature. As long as he lived, there would always be more opportunities in the future. After all, he knew countless secrets and many unexposed inheritance grounds, they were all profitable and useful to him, he did not have to risk his life here. Just when Fang Yuan was about to leave, a small amount of blood bats flew out from the army and towards him. This blood bat group had around 100, causing Fang Yuan to quickly retreat. My clan junior, don't worry. There are traps set up in that cave, and even underground beasts reside there. These blood bats can ensure your safety, the first Gen Gu Yu's voice resounded. When Fang Yuan heard this, he ran even faster. First Gen Gu Yu was slightly shocked, not expecting Fang Yuan to be so observant at such a young age, able to sense his evil intents. Immediately, he pushed his will and another group of hundreds of blood bats chased after Fang Yuan. His distraction caused Tai Shueleng to discover a weakness that wasn't really a flaw. Heaven Earth Magnificent Sound Gu. Howl, the giant puppet opened its mouth, giving off a howl that shook the 9 heavens. At once, the overwhelming sound waves rushed towards all directions like the sound of thunder. The Bladewing blood bat Gu close by were instantly murdered by this power, falling down one by one. Blood bat groups further away were in disarray from the attack, flying randomly in the air. The concentrated bat army earlier had in a split second, gone into chaos and could not have any utility in the next short period. Heaven Earth Magnificent Sound Gu was as high as rank 5, and it was an area of effect type that specialized in dealing with blood bat groups. When Tai Shueleng first used it, the power was not strong, but that was due to him keeping it down forcefully. Now that he used the body of the giant puppet, he could display the true power of the Heaven Earth Magnificent Sound Gu. Even numerous blood guillotine all over the sky were killed. As the blood mist dispersed, clear vision returned. The sound waves bounced off the walls as the entire space within the mountain started trembling. With the giant puppet as the focal point, the blood lake's water level was forced downwards, forming a bowl shape in the lake, and the blood water oozed out through the cave opening. But before that, there were sound waves spreading. Fang Yuan was caught in the crossfire, his white armor shimmering, almost breaking apart. To endure this soundwave attack, his aperture's primeval essence was used up by about 10%. The sound waves echoed in the narrow cave, and Fang Yuan's ears could not endure the buzzing and he almost tripped on the ground. But this sound wave was at least helpful to him. For the 2 groups of blood bats chasing him, the second was already decimated, and the first were in chaos from the attack, flying all over the place in the cave and not being able to chase Fang Yuan. It was a rare chance, so Fang Yuan quickly sprinted, pulling some distance from the blood bats. This group of bats were the furthest from the sound waves, thus recovering quickly. They flapped their wings, continuing their assault. There were about 100 blood bats, all rank 3. Fang Yuan could not fight against them and could only run away. Earlier, the cave was dark and he did not know the directions. But now, his eyes had adapted to the dark environment, and he could see a bit of the area. This was all thanks to the red soil emitting light. Although his thunder wings were already unreliable, it could at least help a little, thus Fang Yuan activated it with all his strength. But even so, the two had a great difference in speed, and the distance was slowly shortened. The distance is almost there, it's time to use the spring-autumn cicada. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth. As the blood bat group continued to get closer, he could only use this method. Bladewing blood bat Gu was only rank 3, so the rank 6 Gu aura completely dominated them. But Tai Xueleng and 1st Gen Gu Yu were nearby. Once the spring-autumn cicada appears, it would cause a great mirage and the commotion would attract their attention. But Fang Yuan had no choice. With the situation before him, he could only hope that they were concentrated in fighting, and could not split their attention towards him. Screech screech. The blood bat group continued to get closer, almost less than 100 steps away. Fang Yuan breathed out in anticipation, thinking in his heart, spring-autumn cicada, come out. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Fang Yuan was stunned, standing on the spot. The spring-autumn cicada was in the center of his aperture, unmoving while emitting a brilliant yellow-green light. How can this be? Fang Yuan was shocked. Far away, the sky glowed amidst the mist. It was dawn. On the slope, Guyu Bo, Bai clan and Xiong clan leader stood side by side. Even though the real competition is tomorrow, we have to have a preliminary competition. The time is just right, shall we start? Xiong clan leader smiled as he said. Bai clan leader snorted, ignoring him. Then let's start. Guyu Bo answered while distracted. He moved his gaze to the Gu masters gathered there, trying to search but could not find Fang Yuan among them. His worry intensified. These Gu masters were all under 30 years old, and while standing together, they distinctly split into 3 groups. Taking one glance, the 3 clans' strength was apparent. Xiong clan had the most Gu masters since they retreated at the start, and kept most of their battle strength. Guyu clan and Bai clan had less members, but Bai clan had Bai Ningbing. He alone was enough to promote the Bai clan's overall strength to the top of the 3 clans. Xiong clan leader shouted, this competition will be held around the surrounding 100 li, all the way until night time, ending when the sun sets. Battles will not have life and death restrictions, but I hope you can control yourselves. You have a token in your hands, and the ones who collect 30 of them gets the qualification to enter the 3 clans competition. Ready, and start. Life and death battles, only those who qualify can enter. There is no participation limit, and the surrounding 100 li is the stage. Even entering midway is permitted. This is not a fair competition. But the 3 clan leaders did not have any opinions or grudges towards it. In this world, survival is based on one's own strength, one's fist. The stronger you are, the more rights you have to gain more benefits. If you are weak, then you should begrudge your luck and lay low, accumulating strength and becoming strong. In a few breaths' time, Fang Yuan felt like 2 or 3 years had passed. His forehead was full of cold sweat, the spring-autumn cicada was unable to come out. How could this happen? Spring-autumn cicada is his vital Gu, it was very important to him. A rank 6 Gu, his final trump card, to think it could not be controlled. This was too severe, and Fang Yuan had to place all his attention on this problem. In the dark cave, he squinted. He only panicked for less than a second, before calming himself down. His mind moved like lightning, his spirit entering his aperture. There was nothing wrong with the spring-autumn cicada, it was still recovering quickly. But no matter how Fang Yuan willed it, it remained stagnant at the center, not moving even a single step. I get it. Fang Yuan was enlightened. This spring-autumn cicada, once it becomes a vital gu, it stays in the aperture and can no longer be moved. Gu was the essence of living beings, it had endless possibilities, and all sorts of forms and abilities. For gu worms, nurture, use, and refine, all three were deep and profound, and often were there special cases in these aspects. On nurturing, gu worms only ate specific food. On refine, they had all sorts of requirements. On use, the bamboo gentleman could only be used by a gu master that has never lied. And to use the righteous gu, it needed the gu master to have a heart of justice. Or the photo-audio gu, dying after one use, while the visuals could stay on the rock walls for a period of time. Once the spring-autumn cicada is refined, it stays in the aperture and can no longer be moved. This specialty reminded Fang Yuan of another gu, the water curtain skyflower. Chapter 187, There exists one river of time, and the spring-autumn cicada acts as the crossing boat. The water curtain skyflower gu was a rank 4 gu. Once used, it would turn into a giant spherical water shield. The defensive strength of the shield was extremely good, and it could even resist attacks from rank 5 gu. However, it had a big weakness: it couldn't be moved and couldn't be stopped. The water shield isolated the inside and outside world, so even the owner couldn't freely enter or exit. Thus, this was used by many forces to protect their territories. Fang Yuan was not familiar with spring-autumn cicada. In his previous life, he died by the besiegement of the righteous path after just having succeeded in refining the spring-autumn cicada. He simply didn't have the time to experiment with it. Also, spring-autumn cicada wasn't his vital gu at the time, and this characteristic hadn't revealed itself. In this life, his cultivation was still low, so he didn't dare to randomly let out the spring-autumn cicada. Spring-autumn cicada was classified as one of the most unusual gu and was extremely mysterious. The records of the insights and experiences of its users had never been spread. Furthermore, once a gu reaches rank 6 and above, they become the only one of their type in the whole world. If someone wanted to refine them, they would only have a probability of success after the previous gu died, otherwise it was 100% failure. Thus, this led to Fang Yuan knowing about this characteristic only now. Rebirth isn't an easy thing, the spring and autumn conceals disaster. Spring-autumn cicada's recovery speed is increasing more and more, and even the cultivation speed of an A-grade aptitude with a sea of resources might not be able to match its speed. Their aperture will sooner or later explode under the pressure of spring-autumn cicada. Fang Yuan clenched his teeth. Rebirth was beautiful, but possessing spring-autumn cicada was equivalent to having half a 10 extreme aptitude. It was like being under the execution post where you could be executed at any moment. If I can't let spring-autumn cicada out, then does that mean I can only use it to rebirth again? Fang Yuan's frowns deepened. This appeared to be the only way. A rebirth would mean spring-autumn cicada would enter a weak state again, and at the same time, Fang Yuan could escape from this dangerous situation. This situation seemed to be perfect, but it contained many problems and huge dangers. First of all, there was no guarantee of the rebirth being successful. Fang Yuan had gone through rebirth once, and he was only able to bring back his valuable experience. He came to an understanding by integrating the Earth's concept: the world is a three-dimensional space and time is an axis connecting the past and present. Without time, space would be stationary. The movements of every matter was a process, signifying the consumption of time. There were no parallel dimensions in a world. Using the spring-autumn cicada to be reborn was to step across from the latter half of the time axis, future, to some point in the first half, past. However, Fang Yuan's aged body in the future didn't exist in the past. Due to the restrictions from the great Tao of the world, his body couldn't be brought over to the past, and could only self-detonate. The energy from the self-detonation was a propulsion force, and the fragment of the laws of time in spring-autumn cicada was like a lone boat which carried Fang Yuan's consciousness from future to be reborn into the past. Consciousness wasn't a physical matter like a body. Strictly speaking, this future consciousness too didn't exist in the past. The ingenuity was contained therein. Future consciousness led to the Gu master changing himself, and thereby influencing his surroundings. This influence would gradually extend to the whole world. This was the butterfly effect. When the butterfly effect took place, the world would no longer be the same, causing the existence of the future consciousness to receive the approval of the great Tao of the world. Someone had said that history was like a long river, and a change in an event in the upstream would completely change the downstream. This mystical world of Gu was like the water in the long river. Almost everyone could only flow along with the stream and go from upstream to downstream. Fang Yuan's consciousness, however, went against the stream, going from downstream to upstream by relying on spring-autumn cicada. When he made changes in the upstream, there would also be changes in the downstream. But the river was still the same river, the world of Gu masters was still the world of Gu masters. It was just that history had turned into another corner, bringing another possibility to the equation. This analogy could be easily understood. However, spring-autumn cicada hadn't recovered completely. It was like a leaky, worn-out boat right now. Fang Yuan's cultivation was also only rank 3 initial stage. There would be an unimaginable difference between the propulsion force of his self-detonation now from the self-detonation of his rank 6 cultivation in his previous life. With such a minute force, he simply wouldn't be able to push the spring-autumn cicada, let alone flow against the long river of time. I probably won't succeed by trying to rebirth through self-detonation. Who is to say that the broken boat won't be stranded in the long river? And if that happens, my consciousness and memories will be ruthlessly washed away by time. To raise the probability of success, it would be best to wait until the aperture is pushed to the limits, stall for time as much as possible and let spring-autumn cicada recover more, decreasing the holes in the worn-out boat. At the same time, increasing my cultivation will provide higher propulsive force to go against the stream, after self-detonation. Fang Yuan heaved a long sigh. This change in the spring-autumn cicada was beyond his anticipation. But with his ever-cautious nature, he had a plan ready. The blood bat group was nearing. Fang Yuan, however, had his attention in his aperture. Yellow-green rays of light flooded his aperture. His white-silver primeval sea was as still as a mirror under the majestic aura of spring-autumn cicada, but there were dangerous cracks in the light membrane of his aperture. All the other Gu had been suppressed down to the depths of the sea by spring-autumn cicada's aura. Fang Yuan sent his will and a Gu slowly flew towards the surface of the sea, resisting the pressure. This Gu appeared like a square dice, it was gray and very firm. This was one of the Gu that Fang Yuan had plundered from by Ningbing. It was a one-time use Gu, and would disappear once used. But its effects were extraordinary, and once used it would completely extract all the strength and potential in a Gu master's aperture and instantly raise a Gu master's cultivation to the peak stage of the same rank. Stone aperture Gu, explode. Fang Yuan willed it, the stone aperture Gu immediately exploded, changing into gray powders just like the smoke from a cigarette, and pervaded the primeval sea. The aperture's walls were originally a light membrane, but once this gray powder touched it, the light immediately dimmed down. The powder stuck to the light membrane and the light membrane gradually thickened, experiencing a qualitative change from light to stony. After several seconds, Fang Yuan's aperture walls had thickened by several times and changed into a heavy, sturdy stone aperture. The yellow-green radiance of spring-autumn cicada still fluctuated continuously, but the aperture could now support its pressure. Fang Yuan was at rank 3 initial stage with light silver primeval essence, and his primeval seat shone with light silver light. But right now, his cultivation experienced a sudden rise, leaping from rank 3 initial stage to rank 3 peak stage, possessing snow silver primeval essence. Using the stone aperture Gu means cutting off one's advancement route and using up all the potential within the aperture. It will be very difficult to step to rank 4. But, my cultivation has increased and the aperture has turned into stone walls, which is multiple times thicker and firmer than before, and will be able to support the pressure from spring-autumn cicada for the time being. Using the stone aperture Gu should have been by Ning Bing's response to the limits of northern dark ice soul physique. Unfortunately, the 10 extreme aptitudes are much more troublesome than the spring-autumn cicada. Their potential is endless, and even by turning one's aperture into stone, the aperture walls will quickly recover. At this second, the Bladewing Blood Bat group pounced in for the kill. Fang Yuan gave a cold snort, then took out his chainsaw golden centipede and killed as he retreated. Fortunately, this tunnel was narrow, and with the sky canopy Gu's defense and the chainsaw golden centipede's wide body, Fang Yuan was able to block the blood bat group and stop them from surrounding him. This greatly reduced their threat. For a moment, there were only continuous ringing sounds within the tunnel. The sounds of chainsaw golden centipede's attacks and the sound of bladewing blood bats smashing into the white armor, quickly echoed through the tunnel walls and formed into a medley. The primeval essence in Fang Yuan's aperture continued to deplete rapidly. There were close to 100 blood bats, but without a Gu master there to control them, there were a lot of internal frictions between the bats and they couldn't form a tacit cooperation. Thus, in reality, Fang Yuan only needed to deal with 30 to 40 blood bats at the same time. But even this number wasn't something he could withstand, and he had to retreat while fighting back. What was even more awkward was that even though he had leaped to rank 3 peak stage, his aperture still contained the initial stage light silver primeval essence. Just by relying on his C-grade aptitude, the self-production speed of snow silver primeval essence was way too slow. The current situation also didn't allow Fang Yuan to multitask and take out primeval stones to absorb natural primeval essence. Consuming primeval stones could quickly recover primeval essence, but this method wasn't suitable in a real battle. Distracting oneself in a life and death battle was asking for humiliation. It was an extremely stupid move and was akin to courting death. At the same time, the efficiency in absorbing natural primeval essence at such a situation was also very low. This way could only be used during normal cultivation, or to exploit short gaps in battles to quickly recover primeval essence. Luckily, Fang Yuan obtained a grass Gu not long ago, Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus. Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus could produce primeval stones. It was very precious and rare. But in fact, this effect was only an expression of its innate ability. Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus was also called Portable Spirit Spring, and its innate ability was to produce natural primeval essence. The primeval essence would then condense together to form primeval stones. The Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus that Fang Yuan possessed was lying deep in his primeval sea. It appeared like an extremely small spirit spring. Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus's recipe was created by Immortal Venerable Genesis Lotus. Only the Gu masters who have reached rank 9 were respected as venerables. For righteous path, they were called Immortal Venerables, and for demonic path, they were called Demonic Venerables. Immortal Venerable Genesis Lotus was also known as the person with the fastest primeval essence recovery speed since the ancient times. In this aspect, he was above other immortal venerables and demonic venerables, and it was all because of the essence lotus. Fang Yuan's heavenly essence treasure lotus was only a rank 3 and he had just refined it, so it was at its poorest level. But it was already providing a continuous supply of natural primeval essence to Fang Yuan. The moment this natural primeval essence appeared in Fang Yuan's aperture, it would be automatically refined and turned into snow-silver primeval essence. Supposedly if Fang Yuan absorbed primeval essence from primeval stones, he would still have to divide a part of his mind. But this heavenly essence treasure lotus was his gu, so using it was as simple and easy as moving his fingers. Fang Yuan retreated while fighting, and with the assistance of heavenly essence treasure lotus, his primeval essence recovery speed could already be comparable with B-grade aptitude gu masters. Kill! He gave a fierce shout before abruptly changing his battle style and charging into the blood bat group. Chainsaw Golden Centipede exploded forth, and its silver sawtooth crazily rotated around, producing screeching sounds as it cut down on a blade-wing blood bat hiding in the rear. This blood bat appeared rather similar to other blood bats, albeit looking a bit more dominant. This was the sole male bat in this blood bat group, and was refined by the first-gen Guyu. By controlling it, one could indirectly gain control of the whole blood bat group. Fang Yuan had been secretly planning this attack after careful observation, and made this attack appear unintentional. With the Guyu first head not present on the scene, this attack was very effective. The male bat died on the spot, twisting into a bloody pulp. The remaining female bats immediately scattered. Chapter 188, Senior paves the way for juniors to run smoothly. In a blood bat group, there was only one male bat, while the rest were all females under the command of the male bat. Between the male and female bats, they looked the same and did not have difference in appearances. But Fang Yuan was beyond familiar with these blade-wing blood bats in his previous life. As long as he had enough time, he could differentiate them. Without the male bat, the entire group fell into chaos. Fang Yuan took the chance and waved the chainsaw golden centipede, killing his way through. A moment later, over 20 blade-wing blood bats were decimated, showing Fang Yuan's resolution of battle. But the intense battle also caused Fang Yuan's primeval essence in his aperture to decrease tremendously. Time to go. Fang Yuan decisively retreated, running away at full force. When the blood bat group behind him reacted, Fang Yuan was already 100 steps away. About 20 blade-wing blood bats continued to chase after him while the others flew in all directions. Gasp gasp. In the narrow tunnel, Fang Yuan breathed hard while sprinting, activating the heavenly essence treasure lotus. After an intense battle, the snow-silver primeval essence left in his aperture as well as the low primeval sea level gradually rose back up. The longer time passed, the faster Fang Yuan's battle strength recovered. Suddenly, Fang Yuan's thunder wings flapped, and the force dragged his entire body forward, almost letting him crash into the cave walls. The Thunderwings Gu had been polluted by the Blood Frenzy Gu, and it had reached its limits, starting to show signs of being uncontrollable. Very soon, the Thunderwings Gu will turn into a pool of blood water and turn into a new pollution source. Thinking so, Fang Yuan stopped hesitating and activated it 3 times, finally causing the disobeying Thunderwings Gu to detach from his back. Go! Fang Yuan resolutely gave up the Thunderwings Gu, throwing it behind him. The Bladewing Blood Bat group behind him surrounded the Thunderwings Gu completely. They rushed up, tearing the Thunderwings Gu into bits. This obstruction gave Fang Yuan a little bit of time to recover. Until the Bladewing Blood Bats caught up to Fang Yuan, the primeval essence in his aperture had already recovered over half of the total. The snow-silver primeval essence compared to the light silver primeval essence, had several times more sustainability, and Fang Yuan's current battle strength had greatly exceeded an initial stage. He laughed heartily, waving the chainsaw golden centipede to fight once again. After killing around 8 to 9 of them, the rest all flew and escaped. Unfortunately, I do not have a Gu like the Iron Hand Grappling Gu. The Bladewing Blood Bat Gu flies too fast, and its wings are sharp like blades. It is really hard to capture. If I can capture 2 or 3, that would be nice. Fang Yuan kept the chainsaw golden centipede, and turned around towards the deeper part of the cave. When he snatched the heavenly essence treasure lotus, he was engulfed by the blood water. That was definitely caused by the first gen Guyu. First gen Guyu used the blood white Gu, turning into a flying zombie. His aperture was long dead and could no longer recover primeval essence. Unless he used primeval stones, his primeval essence in the aperture would be limited by the amount left inside. But if he had a heavenly essence treasure lotus, to a large extent, he could negate this weakness. Thus, not long ago, he sent 2 groups of Bladewing blood bats towards Fang Yuan, attempting to capture him. Thankfully, Fang Yuan saw something amiss and turned around in time. At the same time, Tai Xueling indirectly helped him with the sound wave. I wonder how's the battle between Tai Xueling and first gen Guyu. Fang Yuan's gaze was concentrated. No matter which side won, they would still target him. Tai Xueling wants to bring him to justice, while first gen Guyu wants the heavenly essence treasure lotus. Although the Bladewing blood bats had dispersed, Fang Yuan's danger was still unresolved. I have to leave Qing Mao Mountain immediately, as soon as possible. Fang Yun gritted his teeth. He could no longer return, only able to walk along this mountain cave, trying to find a way out. This cave was obviously man-made, but after a long time, many areas had collapsed. Fang Yuan continued to advance, and when he met these dead ends he could only use the chainsaw golden centipede. The chainsaw golden centipede was originally an underground creature, adept at digging holes, so at this time it had a great use. Fang Yuan also had the strength of 2 boars, and he dug through the soil and continued forward. This greatly reduced his speed, and after 3 to 4 hours, he finally got to the end of the cave. A large sturdy rock wall blocked his path completely. Even the chainsaw golden centipede couldn't drill its way through. Did the first gen Guyu seal this cave completely already? Fang Yuan's heart sank. Bam! The 2 sides' palms met, and the Xiong clan Gu master flew into the air like a rag, landing heavily on the ground. Cough! The Xiong clan Gu master coughed out a mouthful of blood, falling unconscious. In the sky, the sun was shining brightly, sending down scorching rays of light. The sunlight shone over the wilderness, and the light reflected on Bai Zhong Shui's fat face. This young Bai clan Gu master laughed smugly. So what if you're the Xiong clan Gu master? Daring to compete strength with me? She moved her fat, slim body, trying to finish off her opponent and take the token, but suddenly a moonblade came attacking. Bam! Bai Zhong Shui's body turned, shooting a water ball from her mouth. The water ball and moonblade collided, exploding together. 3 Gu masters with Fang Zheng as the lead, jumped down from the branches. Guyu clan's people, this is my battle reward. Bai Zhong Shui squinted, her eyes showing a dangerous light. Fang Zheng's strangely bloodshot eyes stared at Bai Zhong Shui intently as he said, so what? Now you are our prey. At another side of the forest, more footsteps were heard. A few people walked out from the shadows. It was Xiong clan's genius youngster Xiong Lin. His bald head reflected the sunlight, causing him to shine like a diamond. He, this has gotten interesting. Bai Zhong Shui laughed loudly, but the next moment her laughter stopped. The 2 sides attacked together, causing Bai Zhong Shui to be caught off guard, getting surrounded. Bai Zhong Shui coughed out some blood, her expression turning ugly. What? Guyu clan, you are cooperating with these despicable Xiong clan people. Fang Zheng was expressionless, his killing intent raging, not saying a word and getting closer to Bai Zhong Shui. Xiong Lin laughed. This battle concerns the three clans' demographics for the next 100 years, so let me tell you. Guyu clan has already established an alliance with our Xiong clan. Bai Zhong Shui, today is your death date. Spit. Bai Zhong Shui coughed out a mouth of blood water as she stared at her surroundings in disdain. So what if I die? Heh, ganging up, you are just afraid of our Bai Ningbing. It's useless, this is only the initial battle, there will still be 1 versus 1 later. Is there anyone in your clans that can fight against Bai Ningbing? We are destined to be number 1. He, thus we decided that in this first battle, we shall cooperate and finish off Bai Ningbing. Xiong Lin laughed loudly. Buzz buzz buzz. Chainsaw golden centipede's razors grinded against the rock wall, causing a loud noise to echo in the cave. This rock wall was sturdy and thick, being very weird. Fang Yuan's forehead was full of sweat, as he used the chainsaw golden centipede and blood moon gu to attack in turns, but even after many hours, he only progressed about 50 centimeters. Is it really the end for me, eh? Fang Yuan's heart moved, suddenly feeling that there was a life form in the rock wall. He quickly used the earth communication eargrass gu, listening to the rock wall. There was a mysterious life form on the other side of the rock wall, but its aura was very weak. Half an hour later, Fang Yuan dug a hole, and the mysterious life form showed itself. Its entire body was pitch black, emitting a metallic glow like iron and steel. Both its chest and back armor were thick lines that showed a dominating aura. It had 3 pairs of legs, each having spiral-shaped feelers at the tip. It caused Fang Yuan to think of the spiral tip of an electric drill. It's the thousandly earth wolf spider. Fang Yuan was enlightened, immediately thinking of the flower wine monk. The questions in Fang Yuan's heart were mostly answered at this point. Back then the flower wine monk, in order to nurture the heavenly essence treasure lotus, came to the Guyu village. But at the last moment, he was stopped by first gen Guyu, thus he used his methods to throw it into the Blood River graveyard. The flower wine monk was also a rank 5 Gu master, he had to have an intense battle with first gen Guyu. First gen Guyu had operated for hundreds of years, having terrain advantage, so the flower wine monk could not compete against him, thus he could only escape. He used the thousandly earthwolf spider to dig out this path, and after leaving the battlefield he had already suffered an incurable injury. At the end of his life, he hurriedly left behind his inheritance as a last act of revenge. He attempted to let his descendants take the heavenly essence treasure lotus and ruin the Guyu clan's foundation. This explains why the flower wine monk was bathed in blood, his body full of injuries. But the reason for why the thousandly earthwolf spider fall into slumber and seal itself here, that was still a mystery. Also the first gen Guyu, what in the world was he after? These suspicions are all minute details. What's important is leaving this place. Fang Yuan stretched out his hand, sending out some primeval essence and refining the thousandly earthwolf spider. This sturdy rock wall was the cocoon created by the thousandly earthwolf spider when it fell into hibernation. It was extremely weak, like the white boar gu that Fang Yuan took out from the earth treasury flower gu. Thus, even though it was rank 5, Fang Yuan easily refined it. Fang Yuan threw the Thunderwings gu away earlier and was lacking a movement-type gu, this being his weakness once again. But now he obtained the thousandly earthwolf spider, so it was like a glimmer of hope in the darkest hour. This thousandly earthwolf spider was a large steed-type gu. It ate soil as food, and was easy to raise. Fang Yuan injected his snow-silver primeval essence into it, and the thousandly earthwolf spider gradually awakened, its aura becoming stronger. It started to consume, eating large amounts of soil. When it recovered to an extent, Fang Yuan, who couldn't wait to leave, quickly got onto its back, ordering it to move forward. Although it had only recovered a little, the thousandly earth wolf spider was still a rank 5 Gu. Its 3 pairs of legs moved quickly, dashing through. After the cocoon broke, the cave behind was exposed too. This path was the one the flower wine monk created when he escaped. Seniors paved the way for juniors to run along, so this greatly helped Fang Yuan. The only worry was, steed-type Gu worms took a lot of primeval essence to use. The thousandly earth wolf spider was rank 5. Rank 3 primeval essence could not sustain its expenditure, so every now and then, Fang Yuan had to stop and sit on the thousandly earth wolf spider's back, activating the heavenly essence treasure lotus while extracting natural essence from his primeval stones. With 2 sources, as well as his C-grade natural recovery, Fang Yuan's primeval essence recovery rate was fast, incomparable to before. As he instructed the thousandly earth wolf spider to move forward, he would also stop to recover his primeval essence. When they encountered a cave-in, they would drill their way through, and with such a repeated process, Fang Yuan gradually moved away from the Blood Lake graveyard, going towards the surface. Chapter 189, Shocking Change. The sun lowers as night descends, and the setting sun was like a burning fire on the horizon. Standing on a slope was Bai Ningbing, clothed in white, his hair snowy white. The setting sun's last rays reflected in his eyes, hinting that his life was ending. Such a beautiful sunset, how many more times can I see it, this brilliance of nature, I have only seen a little of them all, what a waste. Especially when around me, these annoying fellows are still arguing. Bai Ningbing snorted in his heart, retracting his gaze and sweeping the environment. Gu Yu and Xiong clan's alliance, the remaining 100 Gu masters gathered together and surrounded Bai Ningbing. Bai Ningbing, if you back out of this competition now, we can spare your life. Indeed, if you know your place, we might as well be kind and let you off. Your Bai clan Gu masters are mostly finished. The remaining ones have all been stopped by us. Don't rest your hopes on reinforcements, they will not come. With Fang Zheng, Xiong Jiaoman, Xiong Lin and Qi Cheng as leaders, the young Gu masters spoke in turns, trying to break Bai Ningbing's spirits. But these words, Bai Ningbing did not put to heart. A bunch of rats coming to the elephant and screaming, how pathetically laughable, Bai Ningbing laughed coldly, his gaze sweeping across the crowd, showing disdain. Among you people, only Gu Yu Fang Yuan is slightly interesting. Too bad he isn't here. Hee, come at me together. Saying so, Bai Ningbing created an ice blade, using his hand to wipe the sharp blade that emitted cold energy. He did not even look at the people around him. This person is too arrogant. Humph, not taking us seriously. Brothers, let's attack together. Everyone send out one attack, even 10 Bai Ningbings will be turned into meat paste. The Gu masters jeered, but no one dared to attack rashly. Although Bai Ningbing was alone, his aura was overwhelming, causing everyone to feel threatened. Everyone calm down, don't listen to Bai Ningbing's taunts. We did not practice together before and do not have good cooperation. If we attack together, we will waste much of our efforts and he will take advantage of it. Xiong Lin shouted. Then who attacks first? Qi Cheng asked. Although they cooperated with Xiong clan and attacked the Bai clan, this alliance was not a close one. Whoever attacks first bears higher risks, and also risks the other party taking advantage of their combat. Never mind, I'll engage Bai Ningbing first. To be honest, I've wanted to fight you some long ago. Xiong Jianman took a step forward. She blew a whistle, and once she did, sounds of beasts stampeding could be heard from afar. Many black shadows overlapped in the forest, and what showed up was over 200 black bears. The black bear at the front of the horde was larger than the rest, it was 100 beast king level black bear. The wolf tide was dangerous, but it was also an opportunity. Xianxia man rose to rank 3 because of it, and the bear enslavement Gu also rose to rank 3, finally being able to enslave bear-type 100 beast kings. This was Xianxia man's trump card. Way to go, lady boss. Oh my god, so many bears. With all these bears and us being around 100 people, Bai Ningbing is dead meat. Xiong clan Gu masters were stirred, getting excited. Guyu clan looked complicated. After Xiong Li died, this Xiong Jiao man became the #1 contender in the Xiong clan. Looking at Guyu clan, after Qing Shu died, Mo Bei followed as well. Although Fang Yuan rose to rank 3, his aptitude is only C grade, it was hard to count on him. Thankfully, we still have the A grade Guyu Fangzheng. Many Gu masters looked at Fangzheng, thinking so and feeling assured. Especially during this 3-clan competition, Fangzheng seemed to have gotten more mature, attacking more ferociously, and many Bai clan Gu masters were killed by him. Such a performance caused many clansmen to feel comforted. This was the true disposition of a grade genius. The results are pretty much assured. Even a rank 3 peak stage with much talent cannot be the match for 100 people. Lord Qing Shu, I will take revenge for you personally. After that, if Big Brother appears. Fangzheng stared intently at Bai Ningbing, thinking rapidly in his mind. Merely 100 beast king, what a boring trick. His entire body was emitting cold air. Northern dark ice soul physique. I'm at my limit already huh. Bai Ningbing felt his life ending, his body had reached some sort of limit. Not soon after, he would die. Even now, he could feel his body starting to collapse, and much of his flesh and blood was turning into ice and snow. But even so, Bai Ningbing remained calm, his gaze concentrated. He took a final look at the sun's rays, before turning around and looking at the charging bear group. Since you are all looking for death, I shall act mercifully and grant you all your wishes. Maybe this way, it can bring some excitement to my life, he sighed softly. Not far away, the 3 clan leaders and Gu masters stood still, completely silent. The battle is finally starting. Killing Bai Ningbing is the greatest victory. Xiong clan leader was secretly excited. Humph, we were tricked. They actually ganged up to deal with us. He, you have all underestimated Bai Ningbing, get ready for a shock. Bai clan leader was calm as water, plotting in his mind. Guyu Bo showed a worried expression. Up until now, Fang Yuan and Tai Shueling did not show up at all. Although the 3-clan competition was important, his mind was elsewhere. Desolate in ancient moon physique. If Fang Yuan really has such an aptitude, we have to protect him at all costs and bring him into the Blood Lake graveyard. Thinking so, Guyu Bo looked at Tai Ruanan without turning his body. This Tai family young lady had a strong background, but she was already brought around by Guyu Bo, secretly a captive. Tai Ruanan was not worried about her situation. She believed her father, and was also thinking about how to capture Fang Yuan. Whatever aptitude Fang Yuan had, as long as one bothered to, they could assess it. If he really was a 10 extreme talent, then his suspicion would be the greatest. Fuck. Fang Yuan cursed, lying on the 1,000-li earthwolf spider's back, sticking closely and preventing himself from falling off. He wanted to use the flower wine monk's open path to advance easily. But good times do not last, for not long after, the 1,000-li earthwolf spider started to go crazy. It started to absorb the natural essence in the air, using it. At the same time, its 3 pairs of legs started to dig out new paths, moving around randomly in the underground cave. Fang Yuan understood finally. This 1,000-li earthwolf spider, under the Flower Wine Monk's command, had engaged in battle with first Gen Gu previously. In the battle, it was corrupted by the blood frenzy Gu. The Flower Wine Monk relied on it to escape, then hurriedly created the secret cave, leaving behind his inheritance before dying. Upon losing its master, the thousandly Earthwolf spider lost control and frantically went back to that path that it had dug when escaping. Right before death, what was fortunate was that the thousandly Earthwolf spider sealed itself and fell into hibernation, preserving its last life force before dying. Hundreds of years later, Fang Yuan returned to the place and dug out the cocoon, causing it to awaken again. But the blood frenzy Gu's problem was not solved, and thus after a while, it started to act up again. Fang Yuan was deep in the cave, and just by relying on his own strength he could not escape to the surface. He needed the ability of the thousandly Earthwolf spider. The thousandly Earthwolf spider started to go crazy, getting more uncontrollable. Fang Yuan could only ride on its back, betting on his luck. But at this point, the thousandly Earthwolf spider's frequency of going crazy was not so high, so Fang Yuan still had some control of it. Although his control was slipping, overall, he still controlled the general direction. He let the thousandly Earthwolf spider dig its way to the surface, but where it would end up, Fang Yuan had no idea. The last of the sun's rays were like blood, reflecting on the minced corpses and broken limbs everywhere on the battlefield. Bai Ningbing stood arrogantly on the battlefield, a thick layer of ice beneath his feet as the icy domain continued to spread outwards. The remaining Gu masters amounted to less than 30, staying closely together trying to find a bit of assurance from each other's body warmth. The bear group had long been exterminated. Even Xianxia Man had been beheaded by Bai Ningbing's ice blade, and her head flew far away as blood poured like a fountain out of her neck. Xiong was penetrated by the icicles from Bai Ningbing, and Guyu Qicheng was turned into a ice sculpture. In the ice coffin, he still retained the dodging action right before death, his face showing shock, fear, and utter shock, vivid and lifelike. Fang Zheng's body was full of injuries, but there was no blood, his injuries were all frozen by the ice and snow. He breathed roughly, looking at Bai Ningbing in disbelief. What happened earlier was like a nightmare. Bai Ningbing was definitely a rank 3, but his battle strength was almost rank 4. Humph, although lookalikes, but you are not him, how boring. Bai Ningbing looked at Fang Zheng, walking closer. Fang Zheng still being alive, was also intentional by Bai Ningbing. The Gu masters all got into a commotion, their morale at its lowest. If not for the fact that their clan leaders were watching from afar, they would have broken down and escaped for their lives already. Damn it, damn it. Why is our battle strength so different? I am an A-grade talent, am I going to die here? Fang Zheng gritted his teeth, screaming in his heart. Die. Bai Ningbing jumped, raising his ice blade high while in midair. Slash. The ice blade expanded, almost 5 to 6 times of the original, sending an unblockable aura as it slashed towards everyone. I am going to die. Ah. Facing this attack, many Gu masters broke down and cried in despair. Fuck, why did it come to this? Xiong clan leader's face was full of despair. Guyu Bo was urging to move, but Bai clan leader snickered, stopping him. Guyu clan leader, no one is to interfere, are you going to turn on your word and break the agreement? Guyu Bo squinted his eyes, Bai Ningbing is only rank 3, he cannot have such strength, you are cheating blatantly. Cheating? Hehe, let me tell you the truth, our clan's Bai Ningbing is the northern dark ice soul physique. Bai clan leader shouted loudly. What? 10 extreme aptitude. At once, Guyu Bo and Xiong clan leader were shocked. Reporting. Clan leader, there has been a strange earthquake, many of the clan's bamboo buildings have collapsed, and the ground is seeping with blood water. Not many people are injured but they are flustered. A Guyu clan Gu master came running. To think that there is a thing. Guyubo's expression changed. Chapter 190, Third Battle Against Bai Ningbing. Moon Raiment. With the blade impending, Fang Jing shouted, activating his Gu worm. A misty light that was blue like the moon gushed out from his body, extending and surrounding all the Gu masters around him. But even so, everyone was still in despair. Struggling is useless. Bai Ningbing's blue eyes shone with cruelty and indifference. But at this time. Bam! The ground under everyone's feet suddenly grew and turned into a lump before exploding, sending soil flying. Gu masters cried painfully as they rolled away from the impact. In a cloud of smoke, a giant spider emerged from everyone's sights. The aura of a rank 5 Gu made everyone wary. On the spider that looked like it was made of steel, a black-clothed, black-haired young man was standing upright. I finally reached the surface. Fang Yuan clenched his fist, his eyes emitting a brilliant glow. Soon after, he saw Bai Ningbing who was hacking towards him in midair. The giant ice blade cut through the winds as it slashed towards him. Fang Yuan, you are finally here. Bai Ningbing's calm face, after a slight stun, completely transformed into one of excitement and battle intent. Fang Yuan snorted before the ice blade touched him. The icy winds caused him to feel a slight chill as his black hair flew behind him. He raised his hand, the chainsaw golden centipede. Bam! Iceblade collided with the chainsaw golden centipede, and after a stalemate, the golden centipede's razors rotated furiously, large amounts of ice shards flying out. Friction noises. Cracks quickly emerged from the surface of the ice blade, quickly covering its entire body. Break! Fang Yuan shouted. He had the strength of 2 boars, his strength completely overwhelmed by Ningbing. Bai Ningbing could only let go as the ice blade broke into pieces, and ice shards fell. The thousandly earth wolf spider began to go berserk again, spreading its 6 legs and attacking towards Bai Ningbing. Gu worms had low intellect, but they were born sensitive, able to sense which target was more of a threat to them. Bai Ningbing's aura caused the thousandly earth wolf spider to treat him as an enemy, locking onto him. Bai Ningbing's arms waved, and icicles flew out in a row. The icicles hit the thousandly earth wolf spider's body and shattered, while the thousandly earth wolf spider went berserk and growled, pouncing while Fang Yuan was on it. Swish swish swish. 3 black spiral legs shot out like an arrow towards Bai Ningbing's fragile body. Sensing danger, a snowy light shot out from Bai Ningbing's aperture. The light expanded, revealing the white form immortal snake Gu, floating in midair. Bai Ningbing laughed heartily, leaping and landing on the white form immortal snake's back, staring at Fang Yuan. Interesting. Very interesting. Fang Yuan, you didn't let me down after all. Be big, brother. Fang Jing climbed up from the floor. His face had been cut by the ice blade, his face full of blood as he stared at Fang Yuan with a complex expression. The opponent has a rank 5 Gu as well. Bai clan leader's gaze tightened, becoming nervous. Fang Yuan, you finally appeared. Rank 5 Gu, isn't that the thousandly earth wolf spider? Guyubo's attention was attracted. On the battlefield, 2 youngsters of different ages stood on opposing sides. One wore white robes, had silver hair and blue eyes, riding on the white form immortal snake holding an ice blade in his hand, like a ice immortal descending to the mortal realm. The other had black robes, black hair and black eyes, standing on the thousandly earth wolf spider's back, having the chainsaw golden centipede in his hand, buzzing as it rotated, like a demon god summoned into the world. The two's opposing stances attracted many gazes. Bai Ningbing had an excited expression, raising the ice blade, shouting loudly, "This will be the most exciting battle in my life. Come, Fong Yuan, let us battle to the death." Humph. Fong Yuan stared at Bai Ningbing, using his peripheral vision to observe the surroundings. This was the three clans' competition. To think that the thousandly earth wolf spider brought him here. He did not want to engage with Bai Ningbing and waste his time here. Whether Tai Xueling or the first Zhen Guyu wins, they would definitely hunt him down. But if he does not defeat this Bai Ningbing, how could he escape? Thus battle it is. Bam! White form immortal snake and thousandly earth wolf spider collided. The white snake coiled as the black spider stabbed, fighting at close range. On the two Gu's backs, two bodies moved about, the ice blade drawing different sparks in the sky while the chainsaw golden centipede buzzed as it extended and contracted at will. The mountain rocks broke, and thunderous explosions happened continuously. Icicles hit Fong Yuan directly, but were blocked by the white armor of the sky canopy Gu. Blood Moonblade hit Bai Ningbing, causing a large injury that was instantly covered by a layer of frost, sealing the wound. The frost turned into blood and flesh, causing Bai Ningbing to recover completely. It really is the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique. Xiong clan leader saw this and stared with his eyes wide open. 10 extreme physiques were legendary aptitudes, he did not think he would see one with his own eyes. He, Fong Yuan dares to attempt to fight Bai Ningbing, he is assured to lose. Bai clan leader laughed sinisterly. That might not be. Tai Ruonan beside him pouted. 10 extreme physique, it has to be it. In such a battle, if he was SC grade, his primeval essence would have been long gone. Fong Yuan, you are indeed the desolate ancient moon physique. Guyu Bo clenched his fist, his expression extremely agitated. This is Big Brother's true power. So Big Brother really is a 10 extreme physique, he's been concealing himself this entire time. Fong Zheng's mouth was slightly open, his face full of dejection. The truth was in front of him, so what does his previous pride amount to now? Every time, Fong Yuan and Bai Ningbing's intense clashes would cause his heart to tremble once. He felt himself getting smaller, and his older brother Fong Yuan's shadow started to enshroud him once again. What sort of battle is this? I cannot believe that this is two rank 3 Gu masters fighting. Did I see wrongly? Fong Yuan is so ferocious. Fighting one-on-one against Bai Ningbing and being equally matched. Some surviving young Gu masters stared in disbelief. The battle suddenly shifted once again. White form immortal snake and the thousandly earth wolf spider both took great damage, but it was not refined by Bai Ningbing, merely attracted by the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique. White form immortal snake spit out a lump of white fog, covering the entire battlefield. Then, its body trembled and it threw Bai Ningbing off its body before leaving. This, immortal. Seeing this, Bai clan leader was shocked. As he watched the escaping white snake, he did not know what to say. This fog was like a maze, able to obscure vision and follow one like a shadow. Fong Yuan was covered by the white fog, and his eyes saw nothing but whiteness. But he did not panic, as although his vision was affected, he still had his other 4 senses, taste, hearing, smell and touch. Earth communication ear grass. Roots grew out of Fong Yuan's ears, and very soon he heard a sound analyzing the situation within 300 steps of his radius. Lightning Gu. Bai Ningbing's eyes shone with lightning. Although Lightning Gu was rank 3 and could break through illusions, this fog made by a rank 5 immortal snake completely suppressed it. Fuck! He cursed loudly. Icicle Gu. Dozens of icicles flew out in all directions. Fong Yuan's ears twitched, hearing the sound of the icicles moving against the wind. Thus, he hurriedly flipped his body to the other side of the thousandly earthwolf spider. Bam bam bam. The icicle struck the thousandly earthwolf spider's body, causing it to go into a rage and rush towards the direction of the icicles. I'm not going to play with you. Fong Yuan got off the thousandly earthwolf spider, abandoning it and relying on the earth communication ear grass and attempting to leave the battlefield. This thousandly earthwolf spider had already been corrupted by the blood frenzy Gu, about to turn into a pool of blood water soon, so he should abandon it as soon as possible. That by Ning Bing was now a ticking time bomb, and killing him is akin to setting off a bomb, he cannot be touched. The Gu masters observing the battle only saw a lump of mist, before a small piece was divided out and floated towards the southeast direction of the battlefield. Within this mist, it was naturally Fong Yuan. The maze fog followed like a shadow, and unless dispelled, it would continue to obscure Fong Yuan's vision until the maze fog fades on its own. Fong Yuan's eyes continued to see nothing but fog, but he had the earth communication ear grass, thus he could determine his location through sound. The moving wind and tree leaves, the mountain springs and its flowing water, the chirping of the birds, the breathing of the wild beasts, these were all sounds. Only the mountain rocks had no sound, thus, he sometimes knocked into them. Ice Blade Storm. Behind him, Bai Ning Bing's voice came. Huff huff huff. The winds blew as cold air spread, the temperature in the air started to decrease, and the white-colored ice blade storm was formed, even bigger than before. Even the thousandly earthwolf spider was repelled by it. That lump of mist, it should be Fong Yuan. Quickly stop him. Beside, Tai Ruanan shouted loudly. Fong Yuan, don't go, Guyu village is your home. Guyu Bo was anxious, trying to chase after him but was stopped by the other two clan leaders. Why? Guyu clan leader, are you going to break the agreement and enter the battlefield? Xiong clan leader crossed his arms and snickered. Humph, our Guyu clan admits our loss for this battle. Now, whoever stops me, I will murder without hesitation. Guyu Bo watched as Fong Yuan got even further, as his anxiety rose. Are you threatening me? I am not scared of you, Guyu Bo. Bai clan leader's expression was grim, at the same time signaling to his Gu masters. The Gu master understood, and immediately dispatched his men to chase after Fong Yuan. We cannot let him escape, I'm going ahead. Tai Ruanan seeing this chance, immediately moved, a pair of black steel wings emerging from her back as she flew into mid-air, chasing after Fong Yuan. But at this time, a green shadow shot over. Rank 5, Giant Mountain Puppet Gu. This Gu looked like a bronze mask. Its appearance was simple, only showing both eyes and mouth. The bronze mask was covered in blood, flying towards the young girl's face disregarding her shock. Father! Seeing the blood traces, Tai Ruanan screamed subconsciously. At this time, a large steel hand flew over as well, grabbing Tai Ruanan and flying far away without a moment of pause. This sudden change caused everyone to be taken aback. It seems Tai Xueleng is most likely going to lose. Hee, it has been almost 1,000 years, senior brother. You have really brought me, your junior brother, some surprise. Over 300 meters above the ground, an elderly Gu master stared at the scene, his expression calm and indifferent. His hair was white, and so were his eyebrows. As he sat on a giant crane, his right palm opened with a kinship bloodworm Gu. This Gu was crystal clear, like a red agate. Its shape was like a cicada, emitting a glow at times, pointing towards the Guyu village. Senior brother, even if you hide here, I can still find you. You stole my opportunity back then, so I will return the favor to you 1,000-fold this time. The white-brow elderly gritted his teeth as he said so, and he showed an expression of utter hatred.